I was pulling 40 grand a month. We would hit a city for like 3-4 months until the stores caught on.
Yeah.
They couldn't do anything because it's not illegal. So what
Right.
we were doing is come from a long line of inmates.
Right.
My mom and dad were fishermen, and he was a old school coke addict in Seattle, and overdosed when I was 5. And looking back now in like recovery, I'm like I have like 9 years clean, but analyzing like my teenage years, I feel like my early drug use and like IV drug use was probably like an attempt to like connect with my father, because like I started using IV drugs at like 14, so we were in and out of group homes, foster homes, homeless.
Oh wow,
And,
it went bad quick.
Yeah, my mom, she wasn't a drug addict, but she dealt with her own like problems, always working 3 jobs and stuff like that. So she did her best, and like we were just like not supervised. The first crime I ever did or like got arrested for, I was 13. Me and my brother had been sneaking out at night and like breaking into cars in the neighborhood, stealing stuff from stores when we were shopping with my mom or whatever. And that was like so easy for us. We kind of like we weren't drinking or doing drugs yet, but we knew that if we stole alcohol, that would be like upping the ante. So we started hitting beer runs at our local Safeway like 2-3 times a day. And like, so we would just change our outfits and then go in there. And like, so what we would do is I'd have a backpack on, and then my brother would be behind me, and he would like throw stuff in the backpack, and then we go out. So we got caught one time. I ran. My brother got snatched. I'm on a bike. I'm a kid.
Right.
And so I take a long way through the neighborhood, and I go home, and there's 7 sheriffs outside my house. Right. So I don't go home immediately. When I do go back, I went to a neighbor's house, and he talked me into like going and talk to the cops. Right. So we walk in, and they had like 3 months of footage of me and my brother, like from that same Safeway, just stealing beer the whole time. And we had a tree house with like 250 bottles up there. Like we weren't even drinking, like we were just stealing just for the thrill of it. Like, and so that's where that was our first court interaction. So that put us in the juvenile system. We had to do drug and alcohol classes. We were on juvenile probation from that point forward. We got a theft charge. So the reason we ended up in group homes and foster homes is because by this time, I'd probably been arrested like 12, 15 times as a juvenile.
Right.
And my mom didn't come pick me up. Like she just left me there. So I got my release date. She wasn't there. When you're a juvenile, if your parents, you're not released to your parents, then the state takes over and is like, hey, so they let me go after they found a group home for me to go in. At that point, I was by myself, but like I would always run from the group homes and like probation and stuff like that. And so my probation officer knew that like home life was like crazy. Like, and he knew I was going to leave the group home. So he let me stay. He's like, look, Ray, you can like smoke trees. He's like, you can fail for trees. He's like, I don't care about that. He's like, you can stay at your girl's house. Just like, I need to know where you are and stop doing like powder and like stuff like that, and so like he was really cool and like tried to help me get off probation. And I did get clean for a little bit, like 4 months, and I ended up getting off paper when I was 17. I got off paper, and then within 4 months I had relapsed, and then started selling drugs again. And then I ended up in a bad situation. I owed some people some money. My brother at this time, him and me were together. Like we always like.
That never sounds good. I got in a bad. Just thinking about how horrible that sentence is. Right. I was in a bad situation. I owed some people some money. My first thought is like, that just doesn't sound like a good situation.
No. So my brother and me, we never like lived together, but we always worked together, right? And I had like better connections in Seattle, and so at the time, I had the connection for brown, right? And so I was picking up like an ounce or 2 ounce, up to a QP a day. And then what I would do is I'd drop off half to my brother where he was staying, and he'd get rid of that. And then, we'd re-up. And I ended up driving for my plug. Like he would, in Seattle, like you call the Mexicans or whatever, and they tell you what corner to meet you on. They come pick you up, you do whatever, and then you leave. My guy's driver had robbed him, like stole a car. So he said he couldn't meet me that day. And I was like, well, you need someone to drive? And he's like, no, I just use people from my country. I was like, okay, well, whatever, hit me up. like a couple weeks later, he offered me a job to like drive for him. So like after that, I didn't have to, I was just like totally on front, right? So I had a bunch of dope. I would just go out to my brother, drop off the stuff, and then I would sell for the other guy the whole time. So now I didn't have to buy anything. I was just getting paid off making this dude's deliveries and then selling my stuff through my brother. I had 2 apartments, one where I like slept and like kept everything. And then I had another one where I stashed all the dope and like whatnot. I got robbed. The guy who was staying at the apartment where I kept all my dope, we were there and he must have he roofied me or some shit. Like I woke up the next day, my safe was gone, like, but he left me in the house. And I was like, this is stupid as fuck. So I called my brother up, we cleaned the house out and we were sitting in the car trying to figure out what to do because he took my safe. And at the time I'm 17, right? Like I don't know that like, you know, a couple $1,000s is probably not a big deal to my plug, but to me, I'm like, it's a big deal, right?
Right.
So me and my brother are sitting there. We don't got any of the dope. I was supposed to meet up with the guy at like 10 in the morning, right? And I owe him money and I lost all the dope that I had for him.
He'd probably let you just work it off. Like you know.
Yeah, dude. Like
right.
In my experience now as an adult going through like all this stuff, like, but as a kid, I was like,
Yeah, you're terrified. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I owe a Mexican connected to the cartel, possibly thousands of dollars. They'll kill me.
Which is funny because down the road, the dude got robbed. Like every now and then, like a driver would just like not come back with his car or whatever, and he's like, "I'm not tripping. Like it's like $5,000, whatever." He's
it's the cost of doing business.
Yeah, he wasn't tripping, but I didn't know that. So me and my 16-year-old brother and my buddy, who was like my driver, were in the car, and we were trying to figure out what to do. And my brother leaves, right? And when he comes back, he has a whole cash register in his hands, right? And so he's like, drive, dude. Like, and we peel out. So we go to the neighborhood and he's like, we're going to get your money, bro. And I was like, okay. So that's what we started doing. So we started in Seattle and we worked our way up 99. 99's like the big highway out there all the way up to Everett. And we would hit 4 or 5 convenience stores, 7-Elevens, gas stations, smoke shops a day. So we would just go in. I would have a hood on. I would go to buy a candy bar or a Gatorade. As soon as they popped the till, I come across, I grab the till, and I just dip. Usually, it was pretty straightforward like that. And I mean, it's not a good lick. Like you're risking a Rob 1, like a serious
for
strikeable offense.
$300.
Yeah, tops. Yeah. Like the best one I got was like $480, right? So we got the money back same day. Like it was like $2,400 I owed the guy, right? So I just called my plug and I was like, "Hey, sorry I overslept. I was partying. No problem. I'm back on." Like I give him his money. I'm back driving. So, but at the time, so mind you, I'm 17, almost 18. I've been like doing brown like consistently since I was 14. Like this is just like my lifestyle now. I really, really liked the robberies like that. Like
I was going to say, you would think that at that point, I just came with $2,400 in a day. You think something would have clicked in your head? Because I was thinking to myself, after that, I would have been like, oh no.
It was too easy. Like I was like,
this is the way to go.
Well, that's what I was thinking as a kid. I was like, this is, like this, no effort. Like I'm not going to get caught. It's like, to me, I thought I didn't have a gun or anything. I was like, it's not a big deal. I didn't know how sentencing worked. I didn't know that like, it was a Rob 1, whether I had a gun or not, right? Because
and you risk the potential of
causing harm,
or I was going to say, or robbing some guy and he's got a gun, and you think,
what?
Oh, okay, sorry.
We get there. So I'm selling drugs and I'm doing robberies after work, right? Just for fun. And
of course, it's a given.
It was like it was the new high, because like the drugs weren't doing shit, and I was making money selling drugs. Like I didn't need to do it. It was fun, like, right? So this one time, me and my driver, we go out. My brother's not with me at this time, and we go in, and I hit this convenience store, and it's this little lady behind the counter, and I go to grab the till just like normal, and she grabs my hood and slams my head into the counter, right? Bam, right? And she's got me by the hair. My hair was like medium length at this time, right? She has me by the hair, and she's like me up, like clawing my face, like I was bleeding. So I decked her. I laid her out, like slept her. And I grabbed the till. I go out. There's a check in there and like maybe $80, right? And my glasses are missing a lens. Like I'm up, like I have the till, we get in the car, and I just knocked this old lady out, right? And so I told my buddy, I was like, bro, I'm not hitting old ladies no more. Like we gotta get a pistol. Like just like I don't want to.
Yeah,
I almost got caught, bro. Like also I had to hit a lady. Like, so he's like, okay, so we got a pistol after that, which did two things. One, it made the robberies go way smoother. Like you pull up, especially in a convenience store, they don't want nothing. You just go in, they're like, and
yeah, they're making $8 an hour.
They don't give no, they're like, take it, dude. Like, and for me, what it did, like, I got addicted to that, like that power I had over the situation. So we started like just doing it a lot. And long story short, no. So my brother, my brother, he gets into a DV situation with his girlfriend. He calls me up. Me and Matt are doing our robberies. We go. I tell him like, hey, just chill out. I'll come pick you up, right? And he's like, oh, well, she took the dope and everything, right? I was like, I don't care. Just like, I'll come grab you. So I go pick him up. This dumbass, him and his girl got in like a fist fight, and they always did. And she called the cops on him. And he took her phone though. So like I had picked him up, but they had pinged her phone because he took it. So that's where we all got arrested. Like I just picked him up, and then we get arrested. They take all of us to jail. They take me and my driver to jail for possession. And we had some stolen plates in the car for like doing the robberies and stuff like that. And they take my brother in for assault, right, on his baby's mom. At this time, and like in our area, like we were on the news and everything, but they didn't know it was us. Like
they're just all these for the robbers.
Yes, yeah. Right. My brother doesn't know that like that's why we're getting arrested, right? So the detective, and he's 17, 16. So when we're all sitting down there, me and the driver get booked and released, right? Just we have no records. Like I had just got off probation, whatever. Like all that stuff was wiped. Matt didn't have a record at all. So they book and release us for the possession and the stolen stuff in the car, right? And so they just give us a court date, come back. My brother is staying because he has an assault 2 DV like on his girl, right? Mm-hmm. But then he just free gives them all the robberies and the drug dealing because he thinks that's why we got arrested.
The detective walks in, you know why we're here? Obviously because of the robberies.
Yes. So that
they're like, yes.
Yeah. So that happens. I'm unaware of this. Me and Matt go back to business as usual. My brother's in jail. He's beat up his girl. Like I'm like, he's not getting out for a little bit, right?
Right.
So I have no idea this stuff is happening.
So now they're on to you.
Yes.
Now they're kind of following you, or?
Well, they pick up my driver. They pick up him by himself, and then he also tells them everything, right?
Of course.
And then I catch wind of this because then the detectives
nobody had explained the street code.
No. I mean, at this point in my life, I thought me and my brother were solid on it.
Right. Like I felt like we knew.
Yeah, because I mean, we've been in juvenile drug court. We've been doing this since we were like 13. I was like, I thought it was understood. You know?
It was. It's just you had a different understanding of it.
Right.
His understanding was this is the way to go. Yes. Your understanding was like, oh no, you don't tell anybody on it. Don't ever tell anybody. Like he thought that. Yeah, we have a different understanding of that. We talk a lot about crime on this show, but let's face it. Some of the biggest crimes are committed by the government. You've heard the story before. Big Pharma swoops in to take control. Now, the FDA is trying to reclassify NMN, a natural compound in foods like broccoli and avocados, as a pharmaceutical drug. Why? Because NMN is so effective, they want to turn it into a pricey drug, keeping its health benefits out of the reach of most people. It's likely they're setting the stage for Big Pharma to profit, making it hard for us to access something that could dramatically support our life. The truth is, I lost over a decade in federal prison, so I want to stay as healthy as long as possible. I'm 55 years old, and I'm not ready to slow down. I stay active, eat right, and do all the things that we're supposed to do, but that only gets you so far. That's when I started looking for an NMN supplement, something backed by real science. After some research, I found Cell Being by Verso. It's loaded with NMN, resveratrol, and TMG. These ingredients work together and are proven to boost your NAD levels, which basically is the fuel that powers the trillions of cells in your body. I've been taking Cell Being for a while now, and I've noticed a huge change. I feel sharper, more energized, and just younger. While NMN was recognized as a safe supplement, the FDA made a decision that will make it harder for you and me to get this powerful compound unless we're willing to pay pharmaceutical prices. It makes you wonder who's really benefiting from this change. Don't wait until it's too late to support your body with something that could change the way you age. Click the link in the description box or head over to Verso, ver.so, and use the promo code
Cox for 15% off your first order. Get it while you still can and take control of your health before the FDA and Big Pharma take it out of your hands.
Matt gets out, my driver gets out, and he's like, hey, man, your brother's telling on us, blah, blah, blah. I was like, my brother's still in jail and you're out, so I beat his ass, right? I was like, you're snitching, bro, right? And the detectives go to my mom's house, and my mom calls me. She's like, hey, you need to come like turn yourself in. I was like, that, right? And I went on a run.
So now you realize.
Yeah, now they're looking for me, right? They know who I am. They're looking for me. They already got my brother. They got Matt. Matt's dealing with whatever he's doing. So I get arrested. I ended up turning myself in like a couple months later. I was just like, this, I couldn't do, like my whole shit had just like fallen apart, right? So, and now I'm on the news, like, so I turned myself in. And when I go in, they're like, hey, the detectives come in, and I'm like, I don't got to talk to you. They're like, we don't even need to talk to you. And they handed me a packet of paper, and it was like an 18-page statement from both of them. And like that shit, like, it broke my heart, you know, because it caused a lot of issue between me and my brother for a while after that. But that started my first prison term. So, like I said, I graduated juvenile drug court, so I had no charges going in. They could only put me, they had me on 9 robberies. That's where they had me like wearing the same sweatshirt or whatever at these ones. But I didn't, the only 2 that Matt and my brother said I did, those are the only ones that I pled out to, like, cause they couldn't prove the other ones, cause I was like by myself. Right. So I didn't plea out to any of those. I fought it. I took the 2 and I pled out to 2 rob 2s, and I got a year and a day for my first sentence.
You did fine.
I did great.
That's not like a test.
Yes.
Yeah, I did great.
Well, what I didn't know, and I met Brandon in the county when we were both fighting that. Both of us took our first plea bargains.
And Brandon is what was the name of it?
The video was Nintendo
Brandon,
scammer stealing from Nintendo.
Yeah, stealing. Oh, okay. So Brandon did the stealing from Nintendo. I'm not really a game guy. He was selling the Wii sticks, right?
Yeah. And
is it Wii sticks?
Yeah, Wii. But he was selling. Well,
Wii.
he was taking the claims and selling the consoles.
Oh, yeah.
But some of the claims were like people were, doing the Wii sticks and like hitting the TVs or something like that. And
he told me about that in jail, but I met him in county on his 14 counts of robbery.
Yeah,
right.
So we were in the same tank.
Yeah, like his real story, his real crime story is the robberies. But we kind of packaged it like Nintendo, stealing from Nintendo, because he did do that. But,
Yes.
Yeah. It was good. So anyway, he that's how we got connected.
Yes, that's how we got connected. And I mean that part's not really super interesting. That was my gig after that. I was like, okay, cool. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm a stick up kid and I sell dope. Like that's like, it was working for me.
Some people, it wasn't working for you. You just got out to prison. It was working for
me, bro. It was working for me. All right. I'm an idiot at this point. Also, I had no comprehension of like, I was fresh 18. So like I had no comprehension. My experience was pretty significant with the system, but it was all in the juvenile courts, which were, they I had to do like what 16 weeks, like they sentence you in weeks, like you can get.
They're kind of handling you with kid gloves. They're still trying to turn you around as a kid. I
mean, absolutely. But what I think all it did for me as like an individual was like desensitize me to the system to where I thought it was kind of a joke, you know, and I didn't really realize the severity of like getting a strikeable offense. Like, so I pled guilty to a strike, and like now I'm in the system. I only did a year and a day. I got a slap on the hand for like robberies. I'm doing stick ups. Like, and I was like, this is at my 18-year-old brain's like, I can do whatever I want. Like, so I do my little 4 months after whatever, a good time, and get out 9 months after my sentence. Weeks out. One of the first things I do, I don't have any money. Like I walk across the street from where I'm staying and I go knock off a smoke shop.
Jeez.
And I come back, I'm sitting there on the porch with because I had them put a bunch of cartons of Marbreds in there. And I'm cigarette watching the cops like over at investigate. Right. And, but I don't even get like a good run because we started in Seattle doing these robberies and we went all the way up to Snohomish County, right? And so what I didn't realize is when I pled guilty right away is that the other county had not even filed on me. So by the time I got out, the detectives were filed on me for the robberies that were in King County. And so they filed on me like 5 weeks out, 5 months out, something like that. Like I was only out for 5 months, and they sent me back for another set of robberies. Right. And during that time I went on the run again. I ended up going out to Nebraska, like whatever. I caught some more felonies, a burglary, shit like that. So I do another 13 months. I plea out those robberies down to theft charges. So I do less severe crime, but I still get 13 months. During that prison sentence, I get like way more involved in prison politics. Like I lose all my good time. Like I, start putting in work and like go to the hole, like whatever. I'm like starting to like, this is going to be my life. I'm going to like, prison's my thing, like
God,
I just accept the reality of it, right? Like right. I'm like, okay, I've been going to jail since I was 14. Like I've been to the juvenile 15 times on some bullshit. I mean, I'm not even 19 and I've been back to prison twice now.
Are you thinking that there's no alternative? Like, yeah. is there that's just like the idea that, hey, I might depart from this and go a separate way? Is that like you're saying my that's goal, close to you?
My first intro, like my first bid, right? I saw all the other stuff and talked to a lot of people and I was like, oh, there's like better ways to do things, right? Like, and I started hearing about other licks and like, so by the time I went back the second, but I didn't think I was coming back, but I came back right away. So I was like, oh, okay, well, this is life. So like, how do I do this better so that I don't have to keep coming back every 5 months, right? So that was like my mindset when I got out. So I get out the second time, and this is where we get into the fraud. Right. So I was really fit. I mean, every time I've been working out since the juvenile, and like so every time I would get out of jail, the only jobs I could really get right away were like trainer or like gym jobs, like selling memberships or whatever. And it's like I get a free membership, so I don't got to pay for working out or whatever. So I'd always get a gym job. Me and my brother both. So I'm working at this gym, and this is like a little detour story. So while I was doing my time, one of my friends got robbed by a kid I know, and he wasn't really like in the game like us. Like he was like a drug user partier kind of friend. Like he was one of my skateboarding friends. Like, right. And one of my buddies that I sold dope with that was like in the game robbed him and beat him up real bad. And I heard about it while I was down. And so when I got out, I was like, well, I'm going to go Danny up for that. Right. So I'm at the gym and working, like I was like, had my shit together. I wasn't like doing drugs or anything. I was drinking on the weekends, like being chill. Like I'm going to get my life together. Right. But, I go and I hit up the dude that beat up my friend, and I was like, hey, I'm back on. Like, you want to come try this shit I got? I'll like give you whatever, right? And so he meets up with me, and I beat his ass, right? And when I slept him in the road, and I put him back in the car, and I buckled him in because he's like passed out. And I opened his trunk, and he had a Mini 14 and a Mossberg 500 in the trunk, right? And so
what's that?
Assault rifle and a shotgun. Okay. So I take that, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it, right? But I'm like, whatever, I'm going to sell these. Like, right. That's freebie, So I leave. I'm staying at my mom's because I just got out. I'm at the gym, and I get a call from my mom, and she's like, there's assault rifles in my house. Like, you better come get these. I was like, Mom, don't touch my guns. Like, she's like, I'm going to call your probation officer. I'm like, you better not. Like, you better not. So I leave work. I go get the guns. I leave. But now, like, my mom's going to call the cops, right? So I was like, I can't stay at my mom's. Like, I got these assault rifles. So I hit one of my prison connects up, and I went up and I sold the guns, right? Got rid of the guns. But at this point now, I'm like, okay, I'm back in this shit. Like, right. So part of the deal for the guns, I got some dope, and he gave me some dope and money. And so I just like started selling again or whatever. But now I'm staying in motels, like, cause I don't got anywhere to stay. So I'm just like cheapo motels. And I'm walking around downtown Seattle, and this guy comes up, and he's like, hey man, you want to make $150? And I was like, I'm not new. So I'm like, no.
Yeah. No, nobody's giving away $150.
Yeah, I was like, for what? I'm like, I'm not doing no credit card bullshit. None of that. Yeah. He's like, no, man, I'll give you cash. You don't got to do no card. I was like, nah, I'm good. Right. And so I leave. Then the next day I'm down there, I see him again, and he's like, hey, you want to make $150 today? And I was like, not really, but I'm curious. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And he's like, oh, we're getting cell phones. I was like, okay, like with checks or like what, like, so like my buddy said, like, go get the checkbook for the bank account, and then you just cash as many as you can or whatever. And he said, no, it's not like that. But I didn't believe him, right? Like, but I got his information and I was like, nah, dude, I'm good. Like, I'll take your number though. Like if something comes up.
Well, what did he tell you?
He said they were going in and getting phones and that he would just needed me to sign up for the account. And then he would pay me for using like me to get the account. And I was like, I don't want to do that. It sounds like just straight up like I'm going to go to jail in like a week or whatever after because my name's on it, right?
Yeah. So why can't he get a burner phone?
No, he wanted they were like buying iPhones.
Oh, okay.
But I'm gonna leave it like that for you because like that's where I was. Like I was like, it just doesn't make sense. Like like I don't understand the scam here, right?
Got it.
But I took his number. A couple weeks go by. Me and my buddy, we're just robbing dope dealers on the street. Like I hit him up. I'm not even doing drugs again at this point. But we just like walk around First Hill and be like, hey, you got a sack? And then as they said, yeah, I'd be like, okay, cool. Let me get a bag. And then we go in an alley and we just sleep them and take their shit and then sell it. That's what we were doing. Like we were not.
The term sleep them.
He make him go 9-9.
I know. I understand.
But we were not doing very well. This is like bottom of the barrel. Like we were just like, we needed money to pay for our place to stay. And like, we were like trying to figure out what we were going to do. So we're short one week. I called a guy. I'm like, hey man, what's up with this $150? And he's like, oh, I'll come pick you up right now. So he pulls up and he's in a Prius and he's got this chick, right? And he's like, just, you got an ID? I was like, yeah. He's like, bring your ID, right? So I bring the ID and I get in the car and I'm like, look, man, like, I really don't want to sign up for, or like do, and he's like, no, I'll go in the store with you. I was like, you're gonna go to the store with me? He's like, yeah. He's like, and we're going to use my cash. And I was like, what do I got to do? He's like, you just got to be there, bro. Just put your name, like open an account. So I was like, okay. So he takes me out to Bellevue, which is like fancy area up there. We go to the mall. We walk into the Apple store and we ask him to set up a new phone account, right? Because at the time, you can go into Apple, they got the iPhones all out, and you can go like try them all out, right? And they have the different carriers, so you can sign up with this one. You could do it all in the store with Apple, like Sprint, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon. It was all right there. And how it used to work, this is 2012, 2013, is like when you get a cell phone plan, they would run your credit. And your credit didn't have to be fantastic, like 550, right? Like whatever. So as long as you didn't have like a bankruptcy or some shit on there, they were approving you for a phone plan. And how they used to do it is they run your credit, they say, oh, you're approved. And the brand new phone, like say the iPhone 8 had just came out, right? If your credit was good, you could get the brand new one for $200 down for that phone, right? And what you're doing is they're setting up the line and you're giving them a deposit and then you pay it over time or whatever. So if you get approved,
they're financing the phone for you.
Now they finance the actual unit, the phone itself. So you can't do this scam I'm telling you, but back then you were financing the plan.
Okay.
Like it was not attached to the phone. Like, so they would give you 3 lines at Sprint, 3 lines at AT&T. You could get 5 lines at Verizon, but you couldn't get those all at one time, especially if it's just you and your buddy walking in, right? Mm-hmm. So what they had me do is they signed up for 2 lines at Sprint. I got approved. I was like, no way. Like I'd never gotten anything on credit before. Like I didn't even know how credit worked. Right. And they approved me. They gave me 2 phones. Dude pays for the phones. I set it up like in my account. I'm like, it's like our account, right? Like me and my buddy are getting a phone plan. That's what we tell them. Right. And so we set up the 2 phones. He pays them the cash for the phones, $400 for the 2 iPhones, right? And then like whatever the taxes. So then we leave the store and we go to Best Buy, and then you go to Best Buy, who also has the phones, and you can add. And we just tell them, hey, we're gonna add a line to the Sprint plan. He's like, okay, what's your phone number? I give him the phone number I just got. The guy is doing most of this at the time, right? Because this is my first time doing it. Yeah. So he's doing most of the talking, right? So we add a line to my plan. He gives him another $200 because I got approved. He adds the line. Now the dude has 3 phones for $600, right? He gives me $150 for my time, and he gets to keep the phones. He paid for the phones, right? Mm-hmm. Those phones, when an iPhone first comes out, even today, it's like $1,200, $1,400, $1,600, right? Like that's its retail price.
Right.
And then like now you can still finance it $50, $60 a month, whatever, right? What they did was they were taking the phones and then so you call it in and like a burner phone, like you can go get a Verizon flip phone or whatever, right? They transfer the lines I just started onto the burner phone. And then they never even opened the other iPhone. Now you have a brand new, not connected to account iPhone and that you just bought for $200. and you can sell that for $1,600 or more because there's a shortage, like because it just came out.
Right.
So now he just
$250 because he gave you $50 a phone. $150.
He just walked out with $4,500 in profit.
Right.
Or, for those 3 phones. Right. Like he paid me $150. So like he's leaving with $3,200 in profit. Like if he sells those 3 phones. Right.
Right.
But so for me, I was with him maybe an hour and a half. Right. That was like the easiest $150 I ever made. I was like, we didn't have to rob no one. To me, I was like, I didn't do anything illegal. We literally purchased a phone with cash. Like, I was like, this is sick. I was like, can I do more? He's like, you ever had a phone plan? I was like, no. He's like, let's try the other ones. Verizon didn't approve me. AT&T did. I got another 2 phones for AT&T. They gave me another $100, right? And I was like, bet this is tight. Like, I was like, I didn't have to hit no one. I didn't, like, I was like, this is the easiest.
Nobody chased me.
Yeah, this was fantastic. And I was like, how do I make more money with you, bro? And he's like, you know people? I was like, oh, I know people. Like, he's like, everyone you bring me, I'll give you $50 if they get approved. I was like, for sure. So I went, and me and my buddy, we got a minivan, and then I just like hit up all the crackheads I knew, right? I was like, anyone I sold drugs to, I was like, hey man, you guys got an ID? Like, come with me, right? I started bringing this guy like 5-6 people a day, right? And it's like he's paying me $50 a person. I'm not doing shit. I'm literally
$250.
I'm a crackhead shuttle. Like that's what I'm. That's all I'm doing. I'm going between like the east side and go to north end, like just rounding people up and bringing them to him. And this dude, he loved me. He's like, this is the best thing that's ever happened. He didn't know, but like, so the more I did this with him, like the more they were there probably for like, I don't know, like a month, 2 months we were doing this like around Seattle. And he got more comfy with me because I was seeing him every day, right? Yeah. And this guy had like 20, 30 racks on him at like all times, right? Because he's buying all these phones. He doesn't just have me bringing him people. He has like other people bringing him people. So I started seeing what was happening. I was like, this dude's like pyramid skimming like this. Everyone who does it, he tells them the same shit. I'll give you this much. I'll give you this much. And I was like, well, you can't tell all those guys I just brought you that you give them $50. He's like, well, I'll give you 100 for, and then you give them 50. I was like, perfect. Right. And so we started doing that the whole time. And I'm like, well, I'm going to rob this dude. Right. I was like, I've never seen 20, 30 racks in one spot. Like, so I was like, it's just him and his girl in a Prius. I was like, he's super target, dude. Like, right. But what happened over that 2 months is like, I was like, I don't know, dude, this is like a pretty steady flow of money. Like, why would I fuck with this guy? You know, right? Until he said he was going to leave. And he's like, oh, we're going to go to Denver. I was like, I got to rob this guy like this week, right?
I don't know why I feel bad for this guy. I mean,
I really like this dude. I do. This guy and the guy that I ended up working for like the next like year and a half, like I credit with a lot of like my personal growth as a person. Honestly, like I learned a lot of life lessons from him. But at the time, I was like,
you're a good guy, but I'm gonna have to rob you for that.
Yeah, I was gonna zip tie him and just leave him. I was like, dude, we can just take his Prius too. But he hit me up. I was like, and he was like, hey man, you want to go to Denver? I was like, no. Like, how am I going to go to Denver? He's like, I'll buy you a plane ticket. I had never left Seattle, right? At this point, I was like, yeah, right. To me, as like a 19-year-old kid, I was like, that's fake, right? So I was like, I'll believe that. Like, and he hit me up later that night, and he's like, hey, grab your bags, like meet me at SeaTac. I was like, for real? He's like, and he sent me a picture of the plane tickets. I was like, no way. So I packed my shit, right? And I go and I told my partner at the time who I was going to rob him with, and I was doing all this stuff, right? He didn't have an ID, right? He just got out the feds. Like he didn't have his shit like at all together, right? I was like, I'll go out there, see if this shit's legit. If it's legit, I'll send you out, like I'll send you some money to come out, right? And he's like, cool. So I go get on a plane, I go to Denver, and I'm like, well, what? They bought me a hotel room, right? And then I don't have a car, nothing, right? Like I just got my clothes. And what they would do is they'd pick me up every morning from the hotel. They'd go drop me off in some random hood, and they'd be like, just call us as soon as you got 4 or 5 people ready, right? And so like what I would do is I'd go through the hood. Hey, you got 150, you want to make $150? You got an ID? Like, and like, that's what I do. And I had been selling gym memberships and like hustling like my whole life. So like it was an easy. What's crazy to me looking back on this though is like how many people gave me their IDs. Like, But just like with me, the pitch was, you're going to come with me. I don't need to hold your ID or nothing. You're going to do all the talking. I'm literally just going to hand you cash. Like, So, and they're like, what stopped me from running from it? I was like, you can, but there's a guy in the car over there and we're going to get you, Like, why would you do that when I'll just hand you 150, right?
Yeah, you're about to make $150.
Yes, which is a super easy sell for crackheads, like, or like people who are using, you know. Not everybody was a drug addict. Like, as we did this, dude, I ran like, I did for a lot of like moms and like just random people just like hard up, you know, like, it was a super easy, fast, like hour your time, you know, like I'd buy them lunch or whatever, you know. But Denver, I smacked, like, that's where I got really good at it. Like, I think one day I got 36 phones, like, which is a lot of money for, you know, so I'm making $100 a person, you know, so 36, I'm like $800-900 a day. No problem. I have like an unlimited drug habit.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, they just pay me out. I keep track. Right. Like, and they just, whatever. I love life. Like, I'm buying clothes. Like, I flew out one of my girlfriends from Seattle. I was like, hey, you should come out here. I'm like killing it. Like,
are you figuring out like what their connect is? Okay. I was going to say, like, how do I move up in this scheme?
That's always where my brain goes. Right. So like the same thing. I was like, hey man, so when I started doing it, so we had different levels. So like we called the people that, like me, like rounding everyone up, we were like recruiters, you know, and we had the managers or whatever. That was like the guy with the money that sat in the car that sent me or the girl in with whoever to like make the story more believable. Right. Because oftentimes like me and like some 45-year-old black lady doesn't make sense. Why are we starting a phone plan together? So we need to have like a different type of person to go into the store. And I'm paying attention to all this, but after I start doing like pulling like 20, 30 phone days, you know, I'm like, hey man, I want more money. You know, I want like 200 account. I know how much money you guys are making. Like I want, you know, more than that. So they're like, yeah, no problem. Right.
It's so funny how I'm sorry. It's just so funny how I talk to people and I always wonder, like, did you ever ask for more money? And most people are like, no, I never even occurred to me.
Oh, me and these guys got into it a couple of times. Like one time I left dude.
It's hard to find somebody reliable.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't know. Well, you're not reliable, by the way. You were going to rob them, but they don't know that. They think we've got a solid guy here that shows up every day. He's personable. He's able to contact or talk to people. He can go up. He can hustle. He's a good, like, that guy's worth his weight in gold.
I was reliable as I didn't end up robbing him.
Oh, wow. Oh, even better.
I never robbed him.
Even better. Okay.
No, like me and them were like tight. Like, because, you know, we had people, some beefs, but like it was.
Right. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like in that industry, people are good for 4 days and they get enough money to get a bunch of dope and then they're gone for
never
a week.
Hear from them again.
Right.
So, I mean, and we built on it. Like, their model was and I learned this from like being with them for a long time. There was like two big groups at the time doing it. We called them the Detroit Boys. That was the other group. And there was our guys and they were from LA. Right. And, both these groups, sometimes we'd be in the same city together at the same time. But we would hit a city for like 3-4 months until the stores caught on.
Yeah.
You know, once the stores caught on, dude, my face started popping up in like, you know, they had flyers out, you know, like they couldn't do anything because it's not illegal. So what we were doing is contract fraud, but it's identity theft, but we're using the actual person.
Yeah, the person's there,
so
and they're not complaining.
No, not at all. And so in contract fraud, it's a civil matter. It's not a misdemeanor or anything, right? So what's happening is I'm signing up for a phone plan and I'm just not making the bill. They're going to send me a collections. Yeah. That's it, right? And then because someone has like 7 to 8 phones that just popped up on their credit report, they can claim fraud and they'll get it thrown out, right? Most of these people, because they're struggling, they don't follow through with that. So they get a little, you know, they might have that $1,500-1,800 bill, like whatever.
Right. But if they ever did clean up their act, it's writing a couple of letters to get it taken off.
I got mine taken off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of people did. Like, the main people that are losing is like Apple, Verizon, AT&T, whatever. And like, I don't feel bad for
I know that shit breaks my heart. I've got lost so much sleep at night. I got an
Apple tattoo over here.
No, you do not.
Yeah, I did. Bro, I did the math. So like, I was pulling at my peak, like after the first 2-3 months, like 20-40 grand a month, you know, and this is me not running it yet. This is just dude paying me. Right.
Right.
And at this time, like I said, I'm 19, 20, like that was like the best money I'd ever had, you know? So I got the Apple tattoo. I was wearing True Religion jeans. Those were super cool at the time. Right? I'd go in there and be like, I need 7 pairs of those. Like every city we go to, I would just buy a new wardrobe. Like I was like hood rich for the first time in my life.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how is the drug habit? Is it
Out of
stable?
hand.
Oh no, I was
Out
gonna
of
say, uncontrollable.
Yeah, and the dude that I was working for, the main guy, he was joking because like these guys were not drug addicts, like that were doing it,
Yeah.
like that like had this scam going. There's a lot of us working for him that were, but like they were not. They were just criminals, like hustlers, and
They're like me. Like this is the field I've gone into.
yes, yes, exactly. Which I had never ran into one of those before. Like that was my first. My crime had always been drug fueled, like to feed my habit. Like I was an addict since I was a kid, so I like really idolized these guys, I was like, these guys are like doing it, but, they thought I was funny. They were like, dude, I don't care how much clear. Like, if you bring 30 phones a day, he's like, I'll buy you the dope. Like, he's like,
that's
right?
horrible. That's horrible. So to me, I would have been thinking to myself, if I can clean this guy up, we can make a ton of money together.
He sent me to treatment twice.
Did he?
He paid for it and he bailed me out a lot of times. He's a good guy. Yeah. They're both of them are good guys. Yeah. It was just funny because they're like, Ray's a mess, but he can work, bro.
Yeah.
Right. And, I don't know what it is like that for whatever reason. For me too, I still have like my connects in the joint back in Washington, and like to them, like I was like, bro, like we don't got to do what we were doing. Like I was like, I got this new lick. I'll put you on when you get out, right? So like as soon as my guys were getting out, I was flying back to Seattle, and I was like teaching them how to do it and like set it up. Most of them were dump trucks and like literally could not figure it out. And like and they're like, oh, dude, what do I do? I just like rob. I was like, you don't got to rob anyone, bro. Like stop doing
Grab
that.
the phones and ran out. I got 3 phones in my hand right now.
Yeah, I was like, you idiot, dude. Like they couldn't keep it together, right? Or like they would get the phones and they wouldn't mail them to me because these guys had FedEx accounts and everything, and because like they'd have different groups, and so I finally got to a point where they would send me out by myself. Like, so I had another couple people, like this dude underneath me I picked up in Denver. He started traveling with me. I gave everybody, if they seemed reliable or like they had a little hunger to them, I gave them the same pitch they gave me. I was like, hey, we're going to go to a city and like, we're going to go out to Boston next week. Like, do you want to go? Like, we can just keep doing this here. Same thing. I had 2 guys throughout this whole time, like the year, 18 months I was doing it, that like stuck it out, because like you're saying, it's like super,
I know.
Yeah. But they started sending me to like cities by myself. Right. And at this point I kind of see like the whole structure. Like I know what's going on. So they have their people doing everything I've just been describing. And then the main guy, we would either mail him if he wasn't in the same city as us. We would go to FedEx every night and just like you say, hey, put this on the account, and we send him all the phones. He had a buyer in Vegas from wherever that was just like buying 300, 400 phones at a time. Right. And so he was just getting them from everywhere and then selling them to one single buyer.
Now, do you think, I don't know that you know this, but is this guy taking these phones and just reselling them on like the internet, or is he actually?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, because like some of these things, like there will be overseas buyers.
It is an overseas buyer.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
The only reason I say I met a guy. It's so funny too, because this guy I'll talk to every 6 months to a year since I got out of prison. I'm always like, bro, you have to come on the podcast and tell your story. I know. He's in Miami selling cars. He's making a ton of money.
Yeah.
Because I remember when he explained to me why he was in prison, and he kept, when he was telling, you've heard me say this, he kept telling me the story. On the iPhone, on the iPhone, that, and I said, stop saying, how on the iPhone. I said, I've never touched an iPhone. The iPhone wasn't in existence when I came to prison. He was like, bro, how long you been here? And that his whole thing was, it was iPhones, and they were going and getting corporate accounts. They were actually opening corporate accounts, and then they got it to the point where they could get like 10 or 12, like 8 phones or something. It was outrageous how many phones.
So our guy, we got to a point, like we're maybe like a year in, and he had someone that had worked in Verizon, and this guy worked in Verizon, and then all of a sudden this guy was in his car with him all the time. And as soon as I would open an account, I would call him, I'd give him the number. That Verizon employee would expand the account, like say it didn't have lines on it. And we can hit that same person for like 15, 20 phones, like before the system would just lock them out.
Right.
So like it got like way more complex, like the longer we were doing it.
Okay.
It was a cool lick. Like it was a really, really cool. So at that point, like there's probably definitely prosecutable things.
Yeah. I know he went to prison.
Yeah.
He got him for like $1.5 million or something.
At
Totally.
least, dude. Like, this is insane.
It was outrageous. Yeah. And this guy was just, anyway. Yeah. Anyway, so but you go ahead. You were saying you were flying back and forth with the guys.
Yeah, and I mean that's a dead end story. There's just like my buddies I tried to put on, no one could keep.
Right, but you said then they got to the point where they would grab you and they would fly you alone.
Yes.
And
so they would just send me out, right? They're like, do you want to go to Boston or do you want to go to Montgomery or do you want to go to like where?
This is like a corporate job.
It is,
like,
dude.
You know what I'm saying? You're staying at the Hilton. We've got you here for 2 weeks. We got you here for a month.
Dude, you book us rooms and like I had a flyer miles and so what we started doing is, so because it was funny. He like praised me for my organization because like I got to a point where like I had enough of my own money that I was just floating him, right? And like I would just tell him at the end of the day, I was like, hey, you need to, drop. This is when you could still walk into a bank and drop like $8-9 grand into somebody's account with no questions asked, right? Like you can't do that shit anymore. But so I would just tell him like I need $7,800. I ran like this many people, or like I got 5 guys in my hotel room ready to run at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Like this is how much money I need to move those phones, whatever, right? So that's what I was doing. And what I did is I opened up a credit card and I opened up 2 bank accounts, and then I started collecting the points. I was just swiping my own credit card for shit, like the gas, the people's lunches, everything, right? So I'm building up points. This dude would just drop the money into my account. I pay the bill off. I was like actually starting to build like a legitimate name. And like, I always had like 13-14 grand in my account at all times. So like, it was nice. Like it was my first time with that. But I know now, like they have a buyer for overseas. So I know that's part of the piece. I know how to do the whole getting them the contracts and everything. I didn't figure out that they were swapping the IMEI numbers on the phones to the burner phones. Like I didn't find that out for a while. I mentioned that in the beginning, but I didn't.
Yeah, you didn't understand how
I didn't understand how to get the phone off of the account, right? Because like if it's attached to the phone number, it's useless to you. I can't sell it to you, right? I need it off. I didn't figure that out for a while. I forget how I figured that out. Maybe I overheard one of them talking about it or something like that. But once I had that piece, I went and tried it, right? I went to Walmart, I went and bought the flip phone, and I swapped it on one of them, right? And I was like, no way, right? And at that point, I hit dude up. The guys where I was like, look, bro, I need like 800 an account. I was like, I don't literally even need you anymore. I was like, I know how to do all this shit. And like, I'm like your best recruiter. I was like, and so he gave it to me, right?
Yeah.
He's like, all right. Like, and then that's when they started sending me by myself, right? Well, I'm in Chicago.
That is a problem with hiring a smart employee. So you want them just dumb enough to pull off their job, but not smart enough to figure out the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was and then so the guy that originally recruited me back in Seattle, now I'm on his level, right? Like, so it's me and him. So now I'm basically the money guy in the car now, right? So like, I got my 2 guys I brought from Denver with me, right? And they've been with me like the whole time, right? And so they're the new me's. Like, just I don't do really any recruiting anymore. All I do is I manage the accounts. I make sure the phones get to the FedEx and like all, the like organized part of it. Me, I forget what the beef was over. Me and the guy that recruited me, we were in Chicago, and we got into an argument. I know. Oh, it's because I had the car and everything, right? Like, so I had the car and all the like people and the infrastructure and everything. And me and dude got in an argument, and I was like, well, dude, literally, you. Like, I kicked him out of the side on the freeway, right? Like, we got an argument about something. I was like, I don't need you, bro. Like, and so I left him on the highway in Chicago, and I called the main guy. I was like, I'm not dealing with all this like drama bullshit. Like, I don't need him telling me what to do, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I am dude. Like, we're on the same, I don't know. I was probably high and just like disrespecting me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, testing the water. So I quit. I was like, dude, f you. Like, and I took all the resources I had at the time. Right. And I was like, I'm going to go do my own thing. So the one thing I didn't have, I knew how to do the accounts. I knew how to get the phones. I knew how to swap them. Like I didn't have a buyer. Right.
Yeah, well, that's a big piece.
Yeah. But I had enough money that I just kept running the things I had set up. So I had already I had a system down. So I started every day with like 3 or 4 guys ready to go. Right. And if I burnt that out, I would go to a new hood and do it over there. So sometimes we'd have the crackheads sleep with us in the hotel rooms.
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where Ghost Bed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, Ghost Bed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use the code COX at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/Cox with the code COX at the checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide.
Just so they don't go anywhere. We go buy them drugs. Like, just stay in the hotel, bro. Like, please don't go anywhere. Don't lose your IDs. So I started collecting phones. And so now I got a bunch of phones in Chicago and I don't have a buyer. But I looked on Craigslist at the time, and that's like Craigslist was still viable to do things. There's people, I'll buy any iPhone, right? I'll buy any phone for like, and there's ads, like any phone, any working phone, $180. These guys are doing similar things to what we're doing. They're reselling them, but they're just doing it without the like illegal part, right?
Yeah. They don't have that figured out yet.
Well, I don't know if they didn't have it figured out. They just didn't want to do it. But I started hitting them up. I'm like, hey man, what if I can get you like 20 phones a day? Like, you know, like, and it took me a while, but I found a guy, and he wouldn't give me the like 800 a phone, but he gave me like 700 or something. Like I knew my guy was getting like a couple hundred per phone, right? And it was like not as much, but it was enough to make what I was doing legitimate, right?
Right.
So I started doing that, right? After about a month of that, dude, the main guy hits me back up and he's like, look, man, like, what do we got to do to like, I was like, well, I want you to buy me a car. I was like, I want 4 guys to work for me. Like, I was like, I don't want to deal with boy anymore. Like, you know, like he was still cool, but I was like, I don't want to deal with any of that like hierarchical drama. Like, so like, I want like total leeway. And I was like, and I want like, I just gave him all these crazy demands and he gave them to me. Like, cool. And so
after a month and a half, he's starting to realize it's so how difficult it is to probably replace you.
Right. That's what it's something like that. Yeah. Right. Like, and so I go back to work for him and we go where I forget after Chicago where we went. I know we went all over Connecticut and Rhode Island and Boston. I got arrested in Boston for this actually. I pulled up to the Apple store and I had 4 guys in the car and I was about to go in. And the detectives swarmed us, right? They got everybody.
How did they get on to you?
I don't know. Like but at this point, like I'd had enough interactions with like store people or like potential police that I knew that it wasn't illegal, right? Like, so I was like, I'm not tripping and I'm really high and I'm super cocky, right? Like I'm like, I've already beat this situation a bunch of times, right? So they're like, where's all the phones? I'm like, they're in the trunk. You know? I was like, I got all the receipts right there in the glove box. You know, I was like, I paid for those. Those are my phones. Yeah. And they're like, we know this is a scam. I was like, well, it's not though. So like, are you going to cuff me up front or are you going to cuff me up back? You know? And then the Boston detective he didn't think that was funny. And he like slammed me on the ground. He's like, oh, you think you're funny from Seattle? This is how we do shit out here. My dumb ass, I have some Suboxones, which is it helps you kick brown. I always kept that or methadone, like in case I couldn't get brown where I was going. Right. So I had some of those in my pocket, but I didn't remember that when I was mouthing off to the cop. And so they take me down to the station. I'm not even tripping. So I'm like, I'm just gonna bail out, like whatever. Right. I get down there, they charge me with the possession and they charge me, I don't know, with a theft or something like that for the phones or right. But I'm like, I'm going to beat that. It's not even an issue because I have receipts. So I bail out. I bail out on $5,000. I leave. They give me a court date, right? And I didn't know this, but Boston at the time, I mean, it's a Commonwealth state, so the laws are a little different. Where in Washington, if you bail out, like you're on bail, like unless you f up or something, right? So I go to my court date and I'm not sweating it. And the judge is like, Mr. Haug, he's like, I'm reading the police report. And he's like, I can't see anywhere in here where you committed a crime, but it looks like you're taking advantage of homeless people. He's like, we don't take too kindly to that here. So I'm going to increase your bail until we figure out something we can charge you with. And I was, that's literally not legal.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense at all.
No, they raised it. So they raised it to $10,000, right? And so I called main guy and I was like, hey, bro, like they just raised my bail. I need you to bail me out again. So they bailed me out and I just left. Like I took a...
Yeah, that's not reasonable. Like you have to have a charge.
I thought so. Yeah.
My understanding of the law is I have to have broken it to be placed into the system.
Yes. It was...
apparently it's different there. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was, that was my first experience, but I just left. And like nothing ever came of it. Like I think after, I don't know, it's been like 10, 12 years.
But you also haven't been back to Boston.
Cut that, bro.
Right? No. Right?
No, it doesn't even show up. I did because I'm starting to expunge my record right now.
Okay.
And I did a federal background check and it doesn't even come up. So I think I'm good.
Like, because they probably just never found anything and you absconded. They thought, what are we doing chasing this guy down for something he's going to beat?
Well, it's funny. I was in county and this was at the time in Boston. You probably are not aware, but like I thought it was really funny. The drug lab there, they had just gotten in trouble.
Oh yeah, no, I watched the whole documentary on it.
They were letting them all out when I was there, so I was going in, and there was like 8,000 inmates getting released and resentenced, and they were stoked because like they had to throw out all the drug things because the lady didn't have a degree and was lying.
Have you seen the documentary on it?
No, I didn't know they made one.
Oh my god, bro!
Yeah, so
She's
what happened?
So there was a chick in the crime lab who started using. She was using drugs.
She was doing
powder, right?
Yeah,
but it expanded. If it's the same documentary that I saw, it got to a point where she started realizing like she was hooked on drugs. She's not making enough money,
swapping them out,
and so she's going and they're sending her, you know, like powder to test. So she's like, you know, yes, it's powder. And then she's replacing it with some other, but she's got a little thing of powder. She can keep then it turns into, then she goes, at one point, she now has unlimited access and she's replacing the drugs, right? And then she goes, and they had like liquid, I don't know what the liquid is. It was a drug though. And she's literally taking the liquid and because you have to mix it, you have to compare the two, right? So they have access to the real pharmaceutical grade drugs.
Yeah.
So she's now using this. It's a full bottle, and over the course of
like the formaldehyde,
no, this is like let's say it's like liquid. I don't know, clear liquid.
Okay.
It's something.
Yeah.
Brown, whatever. Because she's going from brown, from like clear to brown, and to she's using up everything in there.
It's crazy you know about this. Like no one ever knows.
And she's like pouring water in, but it's separated. She gets to the point where this thing is drained completely. Like now we have to order more. We don't even have enough to use for the testing. So she's faking the test. She's at the point where she can't test stuff fast enough because she's also hooked on drugs. So she starts just faking the test. Yeah. Oh, he got caught. They're saying they think it's powder. Yeah, it's powder. Like she didn't know what's real, what's not real, what she's faked, what she hasn't faked. And eventually something happens. She's changing report. She's doing all, and somebody starts to figure out something's not right. Mm-hmm. Like some of these people it turns out that their lawyers are also testing. And you said this was powder. And this is not powder. This is, you know, baby powder. What, you know, like the crime lab said this is what? Real. Well, we got a problem. And then they start sending it samples. That's bullshit. And she's saying, yeah, oh yeah, that's clear. Yeah, that's this. Oh yeah, that kind of thing. So it unravels and they eventually come in and they grab her. And when they grab her, she just, they had
to throw out years of cases.
It is like 8,000.
And they just let them all out of prison.
They had to. Yeah. They had to they had to resentence them or they had to dismiss them because the shit it was not admissible anymore.
At the very least, it's my case is now appealable.
Yeah.
And if now I can go, now I know you don't have the drugs anymore. It's been 4 years or 2 years. So I can appeal it. I get a new trial. I'm going to go to trial. You have no evidence. And I'm going to be able to bring in the fact that you had this woman faking tests for the past 4 years.
They don't know which ones were real and which ones weren't. Because she wasn't doing all of them, but like they can't prove it.
They can't prove that. They don't know. And her whole thing was she was trying to say, towards the end, she was trying to say, look, most of them were, well, it doesn't matter most of them. Which ones? You don't know. But yeah, it's great.
And that gives you a bunch of people to go buy phones.
No, he's just saying.
I was just stoked for the guys that were getting out. And I was like watching them all leave, and I was like, "That's wild, man! Good for you guys!" You know. Like,
I thought you were saying that you had a bunch of people that were ready to.
No.
Oh no.
Yeah. Okay.
There was no shortage. There was no shortage of people ready to do the phone scam. Like it was wild.
Oh, listen, when I was surveying homeless people, there was my only problem with surveying homeless people was that I needed to find a Caucasian, like a 35-year-old in his 30s Caucasian guy. So that's a little bit hard to find. They're out there for sure, but it takes a little bit more time to find that guy. That was it. But none of them were like, I'm not interested. I'm giving them $20.
What I found, I mean, I had an extensive experience with this now, is like most homeless people do not have their credit off. Like, They literally never done anything with it. Like
keep in mind, I'm borrowing millions of dollars in their names.
Yeah.
So I would pull their credit, and they just have no credit, or that maybe they have a medical bill from 5 years ago that just isn't affecting them anymore.
Yeah.
Not enough, and that's it. Yeah. Or they'd have driver's licenses, or maybe they'd have an expired driver's license, but I can easily get their driver's license back. Yeah, they're viable. Unfortunately, I don't know what to say. It's probably not. I probably shouldn't say. I don't know. They were
ideal.
husks. Yeah, they were ideal candidates for fraud.
Yeah, because they don't care. Like they
they're
don't
thrilled
care
with the $20.
Yep.
And they can do nothing with their credit.
That's how they got me. Like at the time, I needed the 150. I had never done anything with my credit. I didn't know how to do anything with my credit.
Eve could be ruined right now. It wouldn't affect me one way or the other. I don't have a job. I can't apply for anything. Exactly. I can't prove anything.
I didn't have to commit a robbery. This is cool. Yeah, wreck my credit.
Right.
Write 4 checks. I don't care.
So have you written a book?
No. I mean, people have asked if I was going to write a book. I hear that a lot. I don't know, like, and we haven't got to this point in the story, but like my post-prison experience has gotten me a lot of media attention and like, stuff like that. So like it feels like I probably could.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anybody can write a book. It doesn't have to be, commercially successful for it. You can still write it and put it up there, just because when people see a podcast or something, they might say, oh shit, let me read this whole thing, or let me check this out. And you could also do an Audible.
Yeah.
On my book sales, I make as much on Audible as I do on book sales, sometimes more. And you can option the rights to the book. You can also option your life rights attached to the book. So you may not be interested in doing something with it, but you don't know what some Hollywood producer might, you might not think of it because you don't, you're a fish in water. You don't realize you're surrounded by the water. You know what I'm saying? This is just your life, so you don't understand how unique it is. But I mean, keep in mind, we hear 4 stories, 5 stories every single week for going on 4 years. And I told you, there's the only other person I've ever met, one other person that told the story you have, you've got. And yours is actually, I don't think this guy is as sympathetic, although punching the old lady doesn't help. But but you have at least, like the other guy's name's Dumais. Like, I don't think Dumais had a reason that he got into this. Dumais just wanted money.
Right.
It was just greed. You had a viable, maybe not, most people wouldn't think it's probably viable, but at least you can say, hey, you're a sympathetic victim, right? So you're a sympathetic victim who ultimately was led into this crime. So that, if you write, you realize, like, if it's like me, well, let's say not me, but let's say in general, somebody who already had all the advantages and had a great upbringing and suddenly just decides to start committing a Ponzi scheme, it's not really a sympathetic victim. Nobody their heart doesn't go out to this guy. You've got a horrific upbringing that led you along this path. So you actually have and it's a unique story. So, it's not just that, because most criminals have that, and it's unique. It's not like, hey, and I started selling drugs. Okay, well, that's a dime a dozen. Those stories are everywhere. But this is actually super unique. But anyway, so sorry, I got off track. Do you want to?
It's funny because we were, I went to Philly shortly after Boston. And Philly for me was like my turning point in the hustle of like, okay, this, like, I'm on my own now. I have my own people. Like, I have this, like, my money inflow pretty dialed. I was keeping very detailed logs, like every person, every meal I kept, like I had a Google sheet going for like all my expenses. Like I knew how much it cost me to do every account. Right. And that's what the main guy liked, like, cause I could just give him that. And he's like, dude, I don't even keep records this good. He's like, I'm just going to trust your numbers. And like, so I never him. Like I gave him the real numbers, but he like never checked. I was just like, hey, you owe me 27 racks, like, or you owe me 30, whatever. Here's and he just sent it to me. So I'm in Philly and I have this new driver, this guy working for me. Also a really solid dude. Like I don't know what's up, but he did the thing for me. And then like, I was like, hey, he wanted to make more money. And like, I had him driving for me. And why Philly was significant to me is cause like the guy I had, driving for me was the first person that wasn't like strung out, like he was like normal, reliable, had a house and a baby and like, and so he started asking me a lot of questions that like you're asking me now, or like other people were, and they were like, oh, you're going to write a book, blah, blah, blah. Or like, this is crazy. Like he called me Money Man Ray, like,
so he realized it in the moment. He realized that, this like, is unique.
He said, this is crazy. Right. Yeah. And so at the time I was like, maybe we should start like documenting some of this, I was like, I know I don't want to like, I was like, I'm like, maybe this is federal because we're going to different states. I was like, I don't want to be like I was like, we'll talk to a lawyer first though, but we should for sure look into this. Right. Cause I like in prison, you watch TV. I was like, I'd seen MTV, like they have like those weird, like people, they like literally be like driving around with people selling drugs and shit, and I was like, maybe MTV would be into this. Right. Like true, like real life, like,
true crime.
Yeah. Whatever. Right. And so what we did, we had hella iPhones. So we bought a bunch of phone mounts for the car and we just put 4 or 5 phones on record all the time in the car, which is hilarious because like we're getting drug addicts in the car, and they're like, what the f is that? We're like, don't worry about it, bro.
Documenting my fraud. Yeah.
And it was really because like some of the stories, like, dude, sometimes the crackheads would run off with the money. We'd have to go. It was funny, dude. Like, I chased a guy with a baton one time, like through Jersey, like Camden, like so some of the stuff was comical and we wanted to have it. And like the only way to guarantee that we'd get it is if we just record it all the time. Right. And then I was like, we did it for a while, but then I started getting like really paranoid though. I was like, I'm probably just documenting hundreds of felonies. Like I was like, this is stupid. But we did think about it. And we were at first, I was like, I need to talk to a lawyer before we go pitch it. I was like, but I wanted to have like some like edited videos and like a little short to give to MTV to be like, is this something you're interested in? And then like throw it, because I was like, how are they like cooking clear and not going to prison? I was like, there's got to be a way around it for entertainment value, right? Like, nothing ever came of it, but we did think about it and we were recording crackheads for like 2 months. It was fucking hilarious.
What happened to that guy?
So I offered him to come with me when we went to the next city, but he couldn't, family, and, but I don't know what happened to him. Like, I hope he's doing good. Like, he was living in the hood in Kensington in Philly. It's not a great place out there. He was on the methadone clinic when I got there. So like he had addicted past, but he like got out of it. So I hope he's doing great, but like, cause he ended up letting us, me and James, me and dude from Denver, he let us move in with him. So like we were staying there instead of like at hotels and stuff. Like, so he was like my friend, like it was a good deal. I kept hitting him up a couple times, like in other cities. I'm like, are you sure you don't want to come out? You sure you don't want to come out? Cause like you said earlier, is like reliable people are hard. And like that dude, I could leave him with my car. I could leave him with money. He never did anything. Right. Like he was there every day to work. He wanted a job,
Yeah, my buddy, Zach, used to
would run crews of guys to cash checks and stuff. And he said that was a big problem. He's like, some guy was going to they were going to cash $90,000 in checks in a day. Send him into the first place. The guy walks out with, $2,500 or let's say $3,000. Walks out like if he could just hold it together for another 3 hours, he would have $30,000. But he's got $3,000 in his hand now. Yep. And he'd see Zach and he'd be like, huh, and just start running. He's like, the f is going on? Like, this guy's about to make $30,000.
Yep.
And he just took off with 3. They just can't. You can't
conceptualize it. Like, it was like me before I had gone to Denver, like the reality that people could like keep a scam together and organize it and like to a point where they could fly people was not conceivable because I'd never seen it just because like it was outside of my world experience, so like that, me taking that chance like really opened my eyes to like a lot of things, and I remember, and so by the time we left Philly and I go back to LA, or not back to LA. This is the first time I've been to LA, but that's like home base for these guys, right? And so I move into this loft apartment downtown. It's like $3,000 a month. We got a pool on the roof, like huge deck, like, which is hilarious because in the building we were in, there was like a B-level actor above us, and like we were like in LA, like, and there's like 5 of us, bougie crackheads living beneath them doing this fraud shit, like in a nice fucking spot, like that was always hilarious to me. And this is like, LA was not a good time. Like I made a lot of money, but this is like, my drug addiction kind of got the better of me. Like by the time I had gotten to LA, I was like significantly used to large amounts of money coming in. Like I had the hustle down, like it was established. But with that, the whole time, every city I was going to, like I was more dope. And I like had unlimited money. So I had an unlimited habit. And going from the East Coast, I was over on the East Coast for like 6-9 months where I was doing like powdered brown, and then coming back to the West Coast where they have like the tar brown, not as strong. My habit was unreal. Like, so before where I could like manage it, it just like some days I would just not work, like I'd just be like getting high the whole time. And, the dude I was working for, he was noticing this, right? And it's not like I owed him money or anything. He's just like, yo, dude, like, what do we got to do? Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm like, bro, I need to go to treatment. Like, I got like a problem, and he's like, what's that? Like, he didn't know anything really about it. I was like, well, I need to go like get detox. I was like, this shit's like real gnarly, right? So we found a treatment center out in Long Beach, and he sent me out to treatment there, right? I go out there, I kick the habit, like in there, I detox. I'm like 9-11 days into detoxing. And I just like, I left. I was like, I'm not going to do it, like, so I hop on a bus. He had my car, kept my apartment, whatever. Right. So I hop on a bus, I go back downtown, get high, hit him up. I'm like, hey, I'm ready to go to work. And he's like, aren't you supposed to be in treatment right now? Right. I was like, I just want to work, bro. He's like, okay, dude, I'll send dude, right? And so he sends guy over, and like I just start going back to work. My mom at the time thought they misdiagnosed her with lupus, and she calls me, and the combination of that and like my drug addiction, I had like a breakup with a girlfriend at the time. I like kind of spiraled. I like totally went MIA on the crew guys, right? And I had this really nice apartment, but I was like down on Skid Row, just like hanging out on the corner with the Southsiders, like selling dope, just like reverting to old Ray, right. And literally just not going home because I was like doing clear night and then brown day, and like just like, I was just like, my life fell apart. I was like really depressed, and I go back to my apartment. At this point, the guy I'm working for, he's like kind of just like he's like, all right, Ray's on a bender, like let's leave him alone, So I got like these street drug dealers living with me. Like, so I'm like, hey, I got this pimp ass big spot. Do you want to come stay with me? And you just give me dope every day. And they're like, yeah, dude. So I just let them like sell dope and live with my apartment and like, keep me high.
How long does that last?
Not long. I'm about to tell you. So our building, I told you we have a rooftop pool and like amenities and stuff in the basement. There's ping pong tables and like pool tables and stuff like that. And we had a doorman, like a front door guy that like whatever, right? So what you do is the doorman had a bunch of pool sticks and all the stuff that goes to the games and things like that, right? And we just get them and we go down and play. So me and one of my phone partners, like who was also just like getting high with me, we would just do meth and play ping pong all night, and like we got really good, like one paddle in each hand, just like like Olympic ping pongers. And so I always left my keys in my apartment, and okay, I'm just gonna skip all that. So I thought it was really funny when I was on meth I wouldn't break into people's houses to steal their stuff, but like I would rearrange your furniture. Like, it's like,
okay.
So my building, square building, inside, they had decks on the inside and outside, right? And we had community decks on 9th floor in the basement. So when I was up playing ping pong with my buddy sometimes, like, or he was gone or whatever, I would go to the community decks, and if you had a love seat and a long couch, I would just invert your deck. So like, I thought it was hilarious if like they woke up and they're like having their coffee and they're like, something's off, but I don't know what it is because their shit's reversed, right?
Right.
To me, I thought that was really hilarious, and like I wasn't really committing crimes, but like that's what I would do to kill my time. I was just like on a good one, right? One of those nights, I think I'm leaving because there's like an entrance door, and I think I'm leaving, and I went into somebody's house door, right? Like I opened the door. Dude's like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, oh, my bad, right? And I closed the door. He thought I was breaking in. I was literally super just inebriated. And so I go out the right way, go up to my door, past the doorman, and the guy is standing there with the doorman, like, that's the guy that tried to break in my house. I was like, bro, I live here. I was like, I didn't want to tell him I was on drugs. I was like, hey, I'm really drunk, dude. Like, I was like, I got the doors mixed up. Like, I really wasn't trying to go in your spot. My bad. The guy's like, okay. So, he's like, what room? I was like, I'm in 416. And he's like, okay. He's like, you got your ID? I was like, no, it's in the room. Right. So he's like, okay, let's go up there and we'll get your ID and we'll sort this. Right. And he's like, I know this guy. I see him like every day. The doorman's like vouching for me. He's like, he lives here, Yeah. And so we're going up. But during that interaction, I told the guy that my name was the dude's name who owned the apartment, which was my main guy.
So you can't get your ID.
It doesn't match. I have my ID in there, but it doesn't match the name I gave him. And I realized this halfway up the stairs. So I hit the security guard.
Thank God.
And I take off, right? And I'm like, I'm just going to run away. And I'm really high, right? So I'm running from this guy, and I just start checking doors. One of them opens. I go through the apartment. This lady's like, right? I run through there. I go out to her deck that faces the center. I jump off of her deck onto a different one, and I go down the stairs from that 8th floor. So I just ran through 2 apartments, right? Off the deck into someone else's, out the other one. I'm hiding in the basement. I hear the cops come, right? I wait for them to pass where I am in the basement. And then I go to the leasing office, and the leasing office is in the basement floor too. And I go in there, and it's unlocked. So I go in there and I lock it. I'm like, cool, I'm just going to chill here till like they leave. Right. I'm really high. I've been up for like a week. Right. I forget that like I'm hiding from the cops, and I rearranged the leasing office. I'm a junkie, bro. Like thoroughbred gutter junkie. I just happened to be really smart, and I had a nice fraud like for a while. So I turn the pictures upside down, shit like that. Like I change all the keys on the master, because I found the master key box with all the units on it. I change all the tags on them, like just smoker shit. The cops they meet with, I hear the leasing manager and the cops outside the door. I'm like, and I'm trying to hide, and there's nowhere really to hide. And she's like, I didn't lock this. And so they're trying to get in. I'm fighting with LAPD. LAPD kicks the door down. They beanbag me. Like, that's all I really remember of the interaction with them. I woke up in LA County jail, like hospital unit, like handcuffed to the bed. And I didn't give them my name. So they're like, waiting for my name. I'm like, F you, like, I'm not giving you my name. And I saw they had me. Long story short, I'll cut that one. I got 2 home invasions. So I go to court. I meet with my lawyer, And mind you, by this time I've been to prison twice. I've been through the system a lot. Like I've just spent like the last 18 months like bailing out, and like I think I'm good. So I was like, my dude's gonna bail me out. It's not a big deal, right? So I meet with the attorney, and I'm like, he's like, okay, so he's like, you got one thing going for you. And I was like, what's that? He's like, you don't have a record. I was like, in my head, I was like,
that is
right.
Good.
I was like, correct. And I was like, so what am I looking at? He's like, well, you got an assault warrant officer. I was like, assault warrant officer. And he's like, yeah, you like this cop had to get 9 stitches on his thumb. Like, you almost bit his thumb off. I was like, fuck. And like, and I got a commercial burglary for breaking into the leasing office in the commission of a felony. I got 2 home invasions for running through the apartments in the commission of a felony. So like not a home invasion, but that's how the law was written. So he's like, you got 2 home invasions, assault warrant officer, and a commercial burg. He's like, I was like, well, what kind of time am I looking at? He's like, you're looking at like 10. Like, So I was like, okay. I was like, we're at my arraignment, right? So I'm like, why don't you go ask the prosecutor right now, like what kind of deal he's talking about, right? He's like, it's your arraignment. Like, I was like, I don't care. Tell him I'll plead guilty today. We can save everybody a whole bunch of time. What's his offer, right? Because I know I got strikes in Washington.
Right.
They don't know that.
Oh, you're waiting. You want to beat it before they figure out.
Yes. Yeah. So like, I'm like, tell me like what they're working with. So he's like, okay, they'll drop the assault warrant officer if you take the 2 strikes for the home invasions and the commercial burg. You'll do 9 years. They'll send you upstate in California, LA. You do your county time up to 10 years in the county.
Oh, that sucks.
Unless it's a violent offense, then they send you up. So they want me to go upstate for 9 years, right? But in California, they can give you 2 strikes at one time. Washington, they only give you 1. You can commit 20 strikeable offenses in the same run, and they can only sentence you to 1 strike at a time. California, they can give you 2 at a time. So, right? And they didn't do an NCIC, so they didn't know that like I had a strikeable offense. But I knew from if I get sentenced before they send me off, they're gonna do an NCIC to make sure my points line up for the sentencing guidelines, right? So I cannot take that deal because that's 2 strikes and I already have 1. I was like, if I take it, I'll be striking myself out.
Yeah,
like,
you'll be like get a life sentence. That's what you're concerned with.
So I can't. So I said no. I was like, cool. I'm not signing no continuances. I want my speedy trial. Mm-hmm. So I didn't sign a continuance or nothing. I was like, not guilty. Didn't do it, right? I think I'm cooked. But so like whole LA County could be a whole book on itself. I've been to closed custody in Washington. I've done all kinds of time in a lot of places. LA County is rough. Like, yeah. I would not recommend it for anyone. But so in LA County is so overpopulated. By the time you get to court, often they don't have enough time on the docket to like see everybody. So you get turned around. They call it a turnaround, right? That's what the inmates call it. It's really common. So they load you up on a chain bus at 2 a.m. to go to court because like LA County jail's like a city. And like, so you get on a chain bus, you go down to the court building. Hopefully you get seen. If you don't, you get back on the chain, you go back, and they do it again the next day. That happened to me 3 times in a row. And I was like, Jesus, dude, like this is super annoying. On the 4th one, same thing, nothing, right? And I go up to elevator to go back down to the chain bus, and they let me out, but it's a different floor. And I'm like, I've seen enough cops beat people's asses in here. I'm like, I'm LA County Jail. They're not like fat cops. Like these guys are doing steroids and like, right. I was like, yo, this is offender Haug. Like, I'm on the wrong floor. Like, I don't want to come out of the elevator. Yeah. They're like, come around the corner. I was like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah. So I come around and I see the outside and I like see the street. I'm like,
something's gone wrong.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna run, dude. Like, right. And, so I'm up I go up to the window. I was like, what's up? He's like, oh, is this your name? Blah, blah, blah. He shows me a thing. I was like, yeah. And he's like, I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, we're doing an NCIC or whatever. You're getting released. I was like, they fucked something up.
No, I'm not.
No, I didn't
not
say
if
that.
you did do an NCIC, I'm not.
Well, no, the NCIC is just a background national crime investigation, whatever. Like,
I know. Check. But I thought right then they would see the strikes and be like, oh, this changes. That might change.
They're
your situation.
releasing me though. Yeah. So I think they fucked something up. Right?
Okay.
So I'm sitting there in the tank and I'm sweating, bro. Like sweating. Like what is happening? I'm literally.
How long have you been locked up at this point? Just a few days? Like
a
week?
Months.
Oh, months.
Yeah. I had 90 days. Like, because it was just over 3 months because I'm 90-day speedy trial, right? Okay. I don't have contact with my attorney. It's so overcrowded. I have a public defender. Like I've never talked to my attorney one time after the arraignment, right? Like I have no idea what's happening. Okay. I've just been inside doing time, waiting. Like, this is the craziest. I was familiar with Washington system, which at least I could have like contact. It was just so overrun and like disorganized down there that like I don't know what to expect, right? So I don't know what's happening. I sit in the tank for 9 hours and they let me go and they release me. And so I don't have clothes, nothing, right? Because like I fought the cops and like my shit was all fucked up. So I have the LA County jumpsuit on with the little slides. They look like Vans. And I hit the first payphone outside the jail and I called my attorney, right? I was like, what is happening? He's like, dude, they were doing your jury. They were setting you up for your the omnibus or whatever, where they like send you the like case facts. No, not jury. They couldn't get the witnesses there. So they subpoenaed the cop, they subpoenaed the victims and the leasing office, and they didn't show up to court 3 days in a row. Like they'd already done everything, but the victims didn't show up. So they had to release me and dismiss it. So like I literally lucked out. Like I did that shit. Like it wasn't a home invasion, but like I could totally be convicted.
Oh
right?
yeah, they don't give a shit. They'll send you for 9 years.
Yeah. Like I did that shit, right?
Yeah.
Like so I pure luck. The cop didn't show up to court. The people didn't show up to court, and I got out. Right. Okay. So I'm literally crying because like I've been talking to my girl. I was like, it's over. I'm going. Yeah, I'm going for a minute. You know, right? So I call my guy. I'm like, hey man, I'm out, because he couldn't bail me out because they put me. It wasn't. They initially had me on like 50,000 and they raised it up with the assault on the officer, right? So he's like, I can't bail you out, bro. Like he's like, that's too much money. Yeah. You know, he's like,
and you haven't been working, and you're a junkie, and I can't, I can't dump that. You may go straight. You may just fuck me and walk off. Like
I was fine. Like I wasn't mad at him, right? Know? But he was not expecting to see me again, right? So I call him and he's like, what happened? I was like, your guess is as good as mine, dude. And he sent me out to Vegas.
Oh my God. Back on the fraud wagon.
Hell yeah. Like, and I'm like 180 pounds now. You know, I've been fed for 3 months.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you're all, and you're clean. You're level headed. You're ready to go
for about 3 days.
Oh fuck.
So back on my bullshit. Business as usual. Las Vegas actually sucked for the scam. Like, it was profitable for maybe like 3 or 4 weeks. Like, sometimes some cities, for whatever reason, the stores just catch on really quick, or they don't have a really great population to pull from. Like, so it was like just whatever. If we couldn't get enough phones rolling, we would just go to the next spot. So we go to the next spot. We went to Salt Lake City, Utah after that. And there, me and the original guy that pulled me were like on the same level, right? Mm-hmm. Me and him go out there. Me and him were always fighting. It was like, I think it was just like an ego thing. We're just like, I was like, he's like, you're a junkie. I was like, I make more money than you. Like, like, right. And we just always at each other. There's like competition for like favor from the main guy or whatever. Right. We got in another fight. I tried to take his car. He got away with the car. And then I didn't have anything. And then dude who I was working for, the main guy, was like done. He was like, I'm like, bro, this shit's insane. Right. Like you just got out of jail. Like all this stuff's MIA. Like, and so I was like, whatever, I don't need you. So I started from scratch. So what I did is I set up a buyer first, and then I posted a Craigslist ad and was like, hey, if you want to make $150, like on the job postings, I was like, call this number. And I had a bunch of the burner phones. I just had people calling me, right. And I'd be like, hey, come meet me here. I had these first couple people pick me up and drive me to the store. I had $0. And we would get the phones, the 01s down. I had the buyer ready to go. I would have them drive me to the buyer. I would sell them, pay them their $150 from that first sale.
Take the difference.
And then now I had money to buy the $200 iPhone when people got,
what a pain in the ass, right?
But I made it happen.
Yeah.
Like, so I got my own little crew going again, right? And so I stay in Salt Lake City for like 2 months doing this. And Salt Lake City is really good. Like, just like, I don't know if it's the Mormon population.
I was going to say the Mormons are very trusting.
Yeah. And dude, the cities are clean. We had a bet going. Like, we're like, all right, the first person to see a piece of litter out here gets $100. Yeah. Like, because the schools come out at like 10 a.m. and they clean up the streets. It was wild. But I had a good time. But I kind of, at a certain point, I was like, am I just going to stay in Salt Lake City, or like, I kind of wanted to go home, like I haven't been in Washington in forever, So I was like, I'm just going to go back. So I posted, it's funny. This is the drug addict in me. At this time, I'm making all this money. Like, same in LA. Like I have this really nice apartment. I have this money coming in. My dumb ass would like get arrested for some smoker shit or like.
I hate to interrupt the podcast, but I need your help. Have you been or do you know anyone that has been arrested in Polk County? If you have, please contact me. We are desperately looking for guests that have been arrested in Polk County by Grady Judd. The last video we did actually got 1 million views. If you've been arrested, please go in the description box. Either contact me directly, my email's there, or you can fill out the form that we've got. There's a link to the form. My email address is there. You fill out the form or email me. We will contact you. And we're going to try and get you on the program.
I would get in a fight on the street with some random guy and get, like dumb shit that was literally just the cause from the drugs. Like if I think about it all the time, like if I had not been high, I probably could have owned a house, like in that, like just outright. But, so I don't know how I'm going to get home. So I post an ad. I was like, I'm going to get home for free. So I post an ad on Craigslist on the rideshare. I was like, hey, I need to go to Washington. This chick answers it. We go meet up. And my head, I'm a dirtbag criminal, right? Like I look presentable, like I have decent clothes on, shit like that. But like I know me. And this chick we meet up at the mall for the rideshare or whatever, right? And I'm like, dude, she's just a square. She pulls up in a Beamer, like 5 Series, right? And she's like, this really cute blonde girl, right? And I was like, I don't want to bring my mess into her life, right? So I was like, I appreciate it. Like, thanks for the offer. Like, I'm not going to take this ride. And she's like, no, it's fine. Blah, blah. I was like, I do drugs. Like, I'll be straight up with you. Like, I do drugs. She's like, that's cool. I was like, she's like, just don't do them in the car. I was like, all right. So I get in the car. She said she did drugs. She pulled out a gallon Ziploc bag of blunts, like pre-rolled. And we start smoking trees and we're driving back. I told her I wouldn't get high in the car, but I was totally getting high like at every rest stop,
Right.
So we get home, like not all the way to Washington. She tells me that she was in Salt Lake City to make a pickup, right? And she was driving it back to Washington, right? So
make a pickup for what?
Meth. Like, and I was like, in my head, I'm like, she picked me up. Yeah. I'm the fall guy.
Right.
Like, I was like, that's why she was like, oh, cool, whatever. I don't care what you're doing. She gets pulled over by states. Like, she's like, this is the dude, the meth in the trunks is. She just told me this shit, right? I was like, well, like, how much? Right? And she's like, a lot. She's like, I don't know. The guy just sent me out here to pick it up. And so in my head, I'm like, I'm going to rob this bitch, right? So I tell her about my phone gig. We're just like, okay, let's like clear the air. Like we're both hella criminals, right? And so I was like, she drops me off and like, I'm kind of crushed on her. She's fine, right? Like, and so she drops me off in Bellevue and I want to see her again, right? I want to rob her. I want to know who her plug is. I want to know who her plug is so I can rob her, right? But also I was like, she's hot. Like I'm gonna try to smash too, right? And so I was like, hey, we should network, like blah, blah, blah. I was like, so she gave me her number. I texted her. I didn't hear nothing from her. She hit me up in a couple of days. We started like, she started like showing up. I was like, well, how much dope you got? Blah, 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 right? And then she would show me what she had. And I would take it and I would like, she didn't have any connects in Washington. She was not from there. So I would just like help her sell some of the shit, right? It wasn't a lot, but it kept getting more. And then she had all kinds of stuff, right? She had like the pill packs, like the oxys in the pill packs from the pharmaceutical things. Like she had things of ketamine, like big old bags of dope. Like it seemed like unlimited supply and she didn't know shit about drugs. So I'm like, what is going on here, right?
So are you going to rob this girl?
That's the plan. But then I start crushing on her. We start doing a little business, right? And like I like her, right? Like and again, like the guys I've been working for, this was like another clean cut person that had their shit together, had the nice Beamer, and like I was like, this is a successful person I want to keep around in this circle, right? But
it is amazing how many people in your circle have dodged being robbed. How close they came to being robbed.
I've robbed a lot of people in the meantime, like in between. It's just like I know this about myself. Like it was like I identified it early with why rob the hand that feeds? Like, this is a way more, like I told my dude from the feds in the beginning before we robbed the guy when we went to Denver, I was like, we're making so much money. Like he might have 20, 30 racks on it. We can make that in like 3 weeks if like we just keep doing this.
Yeah, this
right?
is stupidity at this point.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. Like, And like you said, people will run off with the $3,000 when they have the 30, like, and so I don't know. I like the long game.
Yeah.
But, which is weird because like like I said, thoroughbred junkie, and like I could always put it off. Like
Right.
I was pretty successful, I think, at keeping the habit going. So I'm hip now to like, I've been across the country. I've been to like, 20 states doing this, and so through messing with her, we'd be hanging out. Sometimes we would just go on drives and like go to all these different places, right? We go to dollar stores and we buy a bunch of padded envelopes, and like, something is up with what she's doing. I don't know what it is, right? But I know there's a scam going on, right? So like I'm like paying attention to it. And I just straight up asked her one time, like, what she's doing. I was like, what's up with the envelopes? Why do we keep going to all these post offices? Like, and she said, she told me, are you familiar with like the Silk Road, like the dark web, like
Yeah.
where people were buying dope on there or whatever? They were selling dope on there, right? And so like her job was to go get the envelopes and get the dope and then mail it, right? And like I was like, oh, cool. And she was funneling dope off the side, drugs off the side, and having me sell them because she was stealing them from the guy that like had all this stuff, right? So again, I'm just, like, my gears are turning. I want to rob that guy, right? Luckily for me, because me and my buddy, we had it all set up. We had vests and everything. Like, I knew where the dude lived. Like, we were going to go kick his door down, like, SWAT, get him, right? And literally the week we were going to do it, the feds cracked him. Like, and so they had already been watching him for a minute. So it was funny. I was like, thank you, Jesus. Because, like, if I wouldn't kick that dude's door down with an assault rifle,
cops would have had you on film.
Yeah, they would have me, like, right there, right? So they get cracked. And then I'm out of a hustle, right? I haven't been doing the phone thing, so I've been doing the drug thing with her. And I don't have the phone things. I stopped doing the phone thing. I very shortly, I waited a little bit and I hit dude up, my main phone guy. And I was like, hey man, like, I know it's been a while. Like,
Hey buddy.
Yeah. And he's like, all right, man. He's like, we can do this again. He's like, but you got to go to Philly. And I was like, cool. I love Philly, dude. Right. So he sent me out to Philly. I'm not in Philly like 2 weeks. My mom calls me. Like, me and my mom aren't really like super tight, right? And she's like, hey, you got filed on, like, you got new charges here. They came with the house or whatever. It's from King County. I was like, for what? She says robberies. I was like, I already went to prison for that. Like,
Right.
You know? And I was like, when's the court day? And she told me, and I was like, okay, I'll fly home. I was like, can I crash with you while I do this court thing, you know? And she's like, yeah. So I fly back. I go to court. I like bring a bunch of drugs in with me. I'm ready to go to jail, right? Like, I was like, whatever, I'll just like deal with this. It was a robbery from that same string, the first ones.
Right.
And mind you, now it's been almost 3 years, right? It was 2 years, 11 months. So it was a month away from the statute of limitations for robbery in Washington, right?
Right.
And they filed on me for one single robbery, like in North Seattle, right? And my lawyer, he's like, hey, Ray already had a global resolution. You guys said that you were wrapping this all up with the last ones. Like, he's like, this is like almost a statute. This is like malicious prosecution. He's like, you shouldn't be able to bring this stuff up when Ray's already, pled guilty to it, blah, 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 all the things. You guys should have filed that with the other ones because it wasn't a new county or anything like that. It was just like an additional one. And the judge was like, yeah, you're right. Like, he's like, this doesn't really make sense. He's like, I'll PR you, like, on, he gave me a no bail, like, bail, right? And he's like, we'll figure out what's going on. Cause he's like, I don't really agree with this. So he pushed out my court date like 2 weeks and he gave me a new court date. I wasn't expecting to be there that long. I thought I was just going to like bail out, go back to Philly. So I asked my mom, can I crash here? She says, yeah. My drug addict ass, like, I'm not doing the phone thing and I have 2 weeks to kill. So I'm like, I'm just going to get high, right? I get super high. I'm like on a good one for like 3-4 days. I don't want to go back to my mom's house all off. I'm kind of up. I've been out there for a couple days. So I slide through the mall to go get a new change my clothes before I go home. I put a new outfit on. I walk out the mall. The security guard tries to grab me, and you don't grab a tweaker that's been up for like a week. I like socked him. I like turn around, like, bam, hit him, right? And I run away. They tackle me. They one handcuff on. I run away again. They bring me in. I'm walking through the aisle. They're walking me through the aisle like that, right? I jump over the clothes rack. And I do like a roll, and I go down the escalator, and I'm running through the mall with the handcuffs on, and they tackle me again, and I headbutt one of them, and they just end up standing on me. They just like put their boot down on my face and like just like literally stand on me until the cops get there. What I don't realize is that I just turned a misdemeanor theft charge into a robbery by hitting the security guard. So like I'm on bail for 2 weeks, and so they take me back. I go into court. I go for the first thing. I asked my attorney, I was like, hey, can you ask for a bail reduction? Because they had my bail at $150,000, right? I was like, I can't make $150,000, but like if you get it reduced, I could probably bail out, right? And so we go in for the bail reduction, and the judge is the same one that let me out. He goes, Mr. Haug, do you remember me? I was like, no. He's like, I remember you. He said, you were in here on a Rob 1, and I PR'd you, and you caught a brand new robbery while you were on bail.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not reducing your bail, I'm raising it. So he raised it to $250,000. I was like, Your Honor, if you don't let me out, I can't come back. And he's like, get the f- out of my courtroom. And so I ended up doing 3 years on that. I fought it. I pled it down to a theft 1 and assault. So I ended up doing 3 on that. And when I got out that time, I mean, yeah, there's like all the good stuff's done.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
All the juicy stuff. You want to know the rest? Like,
yeah, just wrap. I mean, you know,
Okay,
you can
yeah,
like how'd you get your shit together?
so
you
I
know?
got my shit together. So like the 3 years at this point, I'm like, I don't know, like I've moved above mentally into like the little, I keep getting caught up on the stupid street hustle bullshit, you know, but like I know how to do scams, but right. So like, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. If I go back to it, I'm going to like do it right. Like do these things.
Do it right.
Yeah, that's my thing.
Right.
I've not been able to do it right for like 10 years. But I'm like, I'm going to do it better this time. You know, if I just do it brown, there's days. You know? But so I make it to work release. I stay out of trouble in prison this time. I make it to work release. My girlfriend comes to see me. She's like, hey, man, that phone shit you were doing, like that was really sick. Like I'm trying to get on. I was like, I got you. I'll put you on as soon as I'm out of here. I was like, you just can't be doing dope. I was like, I'm not going to be doing drugs this time. The drug keep me up. I was like, if I wasn't high, like I'd definitely be winning.
If I wasn't high, I'd be a millionaire right
For
now
sure.
off this fraud.
Dude used to tell me that shit all the time. He's like, dude, I've paid you so much money. Like what are you doing? Right. So she comes to see me. She leaves. She overdoses and dies that night. Like,
Oh, bro.
she had just got out of jail. She came to see me at work release. She was gonna check me out for a weekend like visit, and she overdosed and died.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was rough. That hit me really hard, and I left work release on my next visit, and I got drunk at the bar, and I was just kind of like, whatever, you know, like I just let it, you know, I started making some bad decisions. I somehow managed to stay out long enough that when I came back, I blew a .008, not a 08, a 008, like nothing, right? So I denied it. I was like, I wasn't drinking, you know, and I just rode that. Didn't get kicked out. I stayed. But what that did is it started like my addiction all over again, you know? So like I started doing Suboxones because you couldn't piss dirty for those when I was in work release. And when I got out, I made it 4 days and I was doing dope. And then within 5 weeks, I had a pistol and I was robbing people. And like, this dude set my current girlfriend up. So I went over there, I beat him with the bat in his front yard, like, you know, served some street justice. I grew up with the guy, right? Like I felt really bad about that. Like I had a little bit of conscience, you know, I hadn't been like doing drugs for too long. And I remember sitting in the car after we were leaving, me and my chick, I brought her out to do it. And we were leaving. I threw the piece out in there, and I was sitting there and I'm like, dude, I ain't been out 5 weeks and I'm already like committing like class A felonies. You know, I was like, I started like seeing the pattern, you know, I was like, this is not sustainable. So I called my probation officer the next day. I was like, hey man, like I'm not doing great. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm committing hella felonies, bro. He's like, what? I was like, I'm not gonna tell you what. I was like, I'm getting high. I was like, what you need to do is put me in jail, like violate me, right? And he's like, what? I was like, if you don't send me to jail, I'm going to catch some like charges and like go back. I want to stop. He's like, well, I can't send you to jail because you haven't had any violations yet. So in Washington, they do swift and certain. So you get like a warning, and then you do 5 days, and then you do 10 days, whatever, right? He's like, so I can give you the warning. He said, but do you want to go to treatment? I was like, yeah. He's like, we'll send you to treatment. I go to treatment. I bring some Suboxones with me because I'm strung out on brown. Like, I'm going to kick it. They find the Suboxones on me, and Lewis County's a little podunk town. Seattle, they would have, even like a gram of brown, would have just like thrown it out back in the day. They're like, whatever. They don't care. Lewis County they charged me with a felony for possession for having that. It's not even a narcotic. And so with my points at the time, I had 8 felony points. My range was 12 to 24 months. I pled out. I was only in county for like 3 weeks. I just told the prosecutor, I was like, I'll just do my time. Like, I'm not even going to fight this. Like, you just send me back to prison. Like, I need a break, you know? So I pled out to 12 months, the low end. The judge tried to give me 24. He gave me the prosecutor. I was like, no, dude, I'll revoke my deal. Like, you know, I agreed to 12. And so I do my 12 months. During that time, like I go into processing. I end up in the hole in Shelton, like processing in the prison system, and I'm in the same hole cell that I was in the prior bid, like for going, I got an assault, I did a program or whatever, and I was sitting in here on an investigation for an extortion, like on the prison yard, right? And I'm sitting in there, and that for me is like when I was like, maybe I don't got me, you know, like this whole time I've been thinking like I had my life, you know, I was like, but I'm sitting in D203 and I was just here 2.5 years ago. And I was like, this something's got to change, you know, like, so I got out of the hole that time. I went to mainline and I was like, I'm going to stay out of stuff enough that like, I'm not going to be involved in the drug trade anymore. Like I'm still do what I got to like maintain my seat or whatever. But like, if you want to do drugs, like do it out in the yard, don't bring it to my house. I'll beat your ass. You know, like drew a really hard line on drugs. And I started going to the drug classes for the first time. Like, you know, like before that I was like, you DOC, I'm not doing nothing, you know?
Right.
And then this time, so I went to classes. When I was in the drug classes, there's this nonprofit that in Washington called the Post Prison Education Project, started by an ex federal guy. He was also in for some like fraud stuff like that. Ari Cohn, he's passed now, but he started this nonprofit that signed us. If you wrote him a letter, him and the people at his nonprofit would sign you up for the FAFSA and like get you enrolled in a local college to where you were releasing before you got out. So I did that, and I was 9th grade dropout. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was like,
but you do have your GED.
I had my GED.
So you didn't have to start over from scratch. Like you didn't have to go get your GED before you could go.
That's why I was in the drug classes, because in Washington State, if you don't have your GED, they make you do your GED while you're in prison. So most people just slow poke their GED so they don't have to do drug classes. So I had to do the drug classes, right? But because I had my GED, I was like, well, maybe I just go to school, right? So I go out in the yard. I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to go to college, right? Like you're saying, like the people you've seen come in and out.
Right.
My homie Austin was like, okay, bro. He's like, I seen you 3 times since I've been down. He's like, you ain't doing shit. Like, I'll see if you come back, right? And that shit like really hurt my feelings, you know. But I was like, but it also, I was like, he's not wrong.
Yeah,
he's not wrong. True. Yeah, I was like, I did that shit. Like, you know, I was like, on paper, I don't have anything to show that like I'm gonna do anything different than I was last time. So I was like, I'm just gonna get out and do it, you know. And I got out. I don't know if you're exposed to anything in like recovery circles, but if like in 12-step meetings, they say if you're in an institution, whether that be treatment or prison or jail or whatever, if you go to a 12-step meeting, like the day you get out, you have like a 50% chance better staying clean, right? Like that's just like some arbitrary statistic they made up. Right. But it's like one of those cliche sayings. I applied that to school. So like the day they released me at the bus station in Everett, prison sweatsuit. I had my chain bag with $12, you know, like literally nothing to my name. Like nobody would pick up my phone calls at this time. It's just like, I was a mess.
It burned all the bridges.
Everything. Burnt everything. So I walked my ass from the Everett bus station to the Everett Community College in my prison suit. I use their welcome computer and I sign up for classes, right? And they have me enrolled for like 6 months out, right? And I left there and I went to an NA meeting and I like shared honestly for like the first time and was like really vulnerable about what had been going on. And like, I don't know, just like I started going to meetings every day. 6 months rolled around. I showed up to school. I spent the first year like convinced they were going to escort me off the property, you know, because I was like, there's no way, like, you know, like if they knew who I was, they'd let me be here. I'd go to colleges before, but there's to steal textbooks and sell them, you know, like that's the only time I ever been to school is like, you guys over, or like go to a high school party to get you guys to do it brown, you know, like that was it. So like I was terrified of like they would find out about my past. And but I was bored one day and I didn't want to do my homework and I was just browsing the internet and I saw my community college had a scholarship link. Like it's like you apply to this general scholarship and they'll send it whatever. And the answers, I didn't proofread my essays or nothing. I just like wrote them straight into the text box, and I told them like everything I just told you basically, like about my upbringing. I gave them a condensed version of like the crime period, and like I told them about being in prison, like how I got the papers. And I sent it off, didn't think anything of it. But that was the first time I like told normal people like what's been going on in my life, right? So they called me and they were like, this shit is crazy. They're like, can you come into our office and talk to us? And like, so they want to talk to me, and they were just like, we're blown away by your story. And so they gave me a scholarship, and they asked me to speak at the, because at this point I've been there for like 3 or 4 quarters, and I was 4.0 student, like, which was crazy to me. Cause like, I just start in like pre-high school math. Like I was, to me, I thought I was stupid. Right. Yeah. And then, I wanted to be a nutritionist. And I was like, okay, I have a little experience in the fitness industry, but trainers don't make shit. I was like, if I'm a nutritionist, I could work at a hospital, still be in the fitness industry, but actually make a salary, right? So, and I was like, I won't have to do any math. So I get through algebra 1, cool, done, right? Don't got to do that. But I have to take chemistry, the chemistry series to be a nutritionist. And when I was in the chemistry series, the chemistry professor noticed that I was really good at chemistry, and that I was building motorcycles, because like I was paying for myself. So I was like still hustling. So I got out. I was like, I can't commit crimes or they'll send me back. So what I did was I would go to tow yards, buy cars from the auctions after people got their shit impounded or whatever. And then I'd teach myself how to fix them on YouTube and then flip them. That way I didn't have to have a job.
Right.
So like I just still making cash on the weekends. And I did that. But I forget where I was going. But
they gave you a scholarship. They said they said it was this is an incredible
chemistry
story.
Professor. Yes. So I had this sick ass chopper I built. I built this 78 XS 650, which is like a very cult classic, like, cruiser motorcycle. It's like that, the Suzuki Savage and the Harley Sportster are like the top 3 for like hardtail bobber builds, right? So I built one with the XS 650 and I brought it to school. And he was like, why are you not doing engineering? And I was like, what the engineering?
Right.
I've literally never heard of engineering, right? He's like, you can like get paid to make vehicles, right? I was like, for real? He's like, yeah. And he told me about Formula Motorsports, which is an engineering club that makes like F1 cars at colleges, and they race them like in Germany, and like it's a competitive student organization, right? So I found out about that, and I was like, oh, I gotta do that. That's sick. But you have to be an engineering student. And I was like, I gotta take all the math. So I switched majors. I started taking math, and I found out I was stupid good at math.
Like, because you're a 4.0 student. I don't know why you wouldn't be good at math also.
Yeah, I was. So like I literally 4.0'd everything. I was like in honors, calculus, the whole series, and this was all news to me. I was like, I'm literally from the
Right.
So I end up I switched majors. I'm in engineering. I have this whole goal. I looked at schools. I wanted to go to Berkeley. I wanted to go to UW in Washington, because they had the number 2 formula team in the country, right? And I was like, I want to get on that team. My chemistry professor, when I got closer to graduating with my associates, by this time I've been a tutor at the college. I'm like literally the poster boy for Everett Community College. They have me on their ads. Like my face is all over the school. I work in a tutoring center. That getting every scholarship. I started working with the Everett City Council to pass the Fair Chance Housing Bill, because Seattle changed their laws so that they couldn't discriminate against people. Because my record, I own a house now. I've never rented an apartment in my name. I can't. I'm a violent felon. Like I literally get denied on everything. Seattle changed that a couple years ago, and what they did is in their bill that they passed so you couldn't discriminate. They treat it like a protected class, and for criminal records, right? Except for arson and like sex crimes. Those 2 are excluded still, but everything else is good to go. They can't say, no, you can't rent. So, but what they did is in their bill, they cited all the studies that show that it's like, if you make it 4 years out, you're just as likely to commit a felony as the Joe Schmo. There's no correlation between a criminal record and people's like being a tenant. Like those things aren't related at all. And so I took that and I was trying to pass it in Everett. Snohomish County is like way more Republican than Seattle. So it's like, they're not going for it, but I tried to push it. I got, the President's Award for working on that. Like they nominated me from the school, all the public community colleges, and I won that award for that work. And then between that and the scholarship stuff and the tutoring, Mark, the chemistry professor, he nominated me for this full ride scholarship to UW It was for transfer students with community impact. And I applied to that, and I had multiple rounds of interviews, and I got it. And it was $41,000, 3 full years paid at UW. And then my last year at community college, they footed the bill. So I got a full ride from them for the Martin Scholarship. And then while I was at UW, I continued. At this point, by the time I transferred to UW, which is number 4 or 3 research university in the country, it's like an Ivy League public school for medical stuff. For engineering, it's like ranked 40th. It's not like top, but they do have the best Formula Club, which was my goal.
Right,
so
right.
Day one, I'm like, yo, I want on this car club. And I was like, here's all my stuff. And they were like, yeah, absolutely. So I got on the car club. COVID happens. So the only time we can go to school is for the car club. So we're in the pit. That's what we called it, the mechanic shop, working on his cars the whole time. And then they compete nationally and then internationally. But because of COVID, the only state that would let us compete was Vegas. Vegas didn't care about the COVID regulations. They kept their speedway open, and right, so we competed there. But they did have the people restrictions. So they're only allowed 9 people in. So the team leaders went. I wasn't a team leader at the time, so I wasn't going to be able to go in. I would just have to be support outside the stadium. I'm a good criminal though, so I printed my resume and I snuck in to pass the COVID people, right? And there's a bunch of recruiters there for like Tesla and SpaceX and the Boring Company and all that. And I got my resume out to to all of them. I ended up landing an internship at SpaceX in LA as a fluids engineer, and I did that twice
at SpaceX
in LA.
Nice.
Yeah, which is also, it was crazy to me. I remember flying down there the first time, and I'm like, and they're paying my relocation and everything, right?
Right.
I was like, not like 4 years ago, I was sitting in a 6x9 with a 9th grade education, like nobody,
right?
And I'm like literally getting actually paid to fly down to the number 1 engineering firm in the world to what? Like, it was insane to me, right? And so I did that, killed it. They brought me back, killed that. I was like, that's my life. By this time, my wife and I, we had bought a house. I had 2 kids. We did this all during school or whatever. So I was like, I'm going to work at SpaceX. That's like the new trajectory. Which, to tie back to like the other stuff, is like, I told you I was trying to put all my friends on, like when they got out of prison with the phone scam, right? Yeah. And so I'm still in like heavy I was like affiliated prison gang, all that shit, right? Like the whole time I was in there. And so like, I'm still in contact with a lot of these guys. I mean, there was a point when I got out, this most recent time I got released in 2016, where I was still sending dope into the joint, I was like, after I'd been out for like a year, like, I was like, dude, I was like, this don't feel good,
Yeah.
So I had to cut that off. I lost a lot of my friends through that, but whatever, I was like, dude, it's not a loss, but, I'm still in contact with a lot of guys. And then because of my success at Everett Community College, and because I was on probation for so long, because I was a violent offender, I worked a lot with the DOC and my buddies. And like, I was like kind of respected in like the DOC circle, Right. It's like, hey, this is a total off that like turned his shit around, so they got like, my buddies would call me and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm in LA working at SpaceX, like
get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. They're like reading my article. They're like, it was really cool. It went from like, oh, I'll see you when you come back next time, to be like, dude, I saw that article and you're like literally met astronauts and shit. It's like, is wild. And so
that shit was, sorry. I was going to say the other day, like Jess and I were looking at that they had launched Big Heavy, right? And it came back down and it landed on it. And I mean, Jess and I were just watching it on. Yeah,
they caught it first time.
Yeah, it was like, do you have any idea? They just caught a 10-story building. Like, this is insane. Like, this is Star Trek. This is like I'm starting to think
we will see Mars in our lifetime.
Yeah, I was like, this is some insane shit right now that I never thought would happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is over the top.
Which I was dude. I remember working at, I was a line cook, like during college, like I got whatever jobs I could, right?
Yeah.
And I remember asking for a raise and the guy was like, you're a felon, dude. He's like, where are you? And I'm working at SpaceX. I'm like, SpaceX was, I thought for sure I wouldn't get it. You know, I'd been denied at Boeing, like all these places. I just like, I was sure my record would keep me. SpaceX let me work there. They have a very, like, I found in tech, and I preach this a lot. STEM is really important, especially for people that are justice impacted. We don't work with the public. Like, I work on my computer and I do design work all the time. Like, they don't care. Like, are you good at the technical skill that we're here to hire you for? If that's it, like, all that other shit. We just like, you can work at the Elon companies without a degree.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's Elon Musk in general. It's like, can you do the job?
Yes.
Like, that's all I give a shit about. Like, you know, you've got to be able to perform, and it's about performance based, and that's it. But I was thinking it's funny because when they first went, remember what was, I forget, whatever, the boosters, when the first time
Falcon 9 is their main single one, but they had Falcon 1, which it launched 3 times, and then Elon like took a loan and is successfully on the 4th one, and that's what started SpaceX.
Right. Well, I mean, the one that's landing on its own.
Yeah, Falcon 9.
Yeah, Falcon. Yeah, the one when it first came down, boom, crashes, comes down again, crashes, comes down again. You know what I'm saying? And then it lands, and I thought, you know what?
Have you been to Kennedy to see him?
No.
You should. I'm so jealous of living down here. I saw one at Cape Canaveral in California.
I would love to.
Is Cape Canaveral down here?
Yeah.
Vandenberg is where I went. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to me, I remember thinking to myself, well, you know what's going to happen? What, like, they're probably going to be able to land 1 out of every, you know, like maybe they'll 2 out of 3, but they're going to continue to crash. And now it's just it's
14 runs, bro.
Yeah, it's just like, no, it's done. That's a done deal.
Yeah.
Like, unless there's a malfunction, like, and there hasn't been, like, we're literally going to launch these, land them, launch them, like it's
a huge deal for, like, not only like our country, but like for like the industry. It saves massive amounts of money, which makes it way more accessible. That's why we'll see advances in our lifetime, you know?
Yeah. Jess and I watched the whole thing. Listen, I've watched 10 videos. I could talk all day about going to Mars. Like,
did you watch the Inspiration 4, where SpaceX sent the 4 civilians up? It's on Netflix. It's a little like 3 or 4 part miniseries.
No, because I watched most of the stuff that's just kind of like on YouTube.
Got it.
So I've watched more like people talking about what the plan is, how they're going to use. Oh shoot, what is the name of the not Big Heavy, but what it
Starship.
Launched? Starship. They're going to use, you know, they're going to put one Starship up, then they're going to do another, then they're going to flip them, then they're going to go to, then leave one, come back. Like,
I was at
the plan.
So Gwen Shotwell, the president, SpaceX is really cool because it's very non-hierarchical. So you're like always, you're 2 people away from Elon. Like, you know, like it's very flat, you know? So we got a presentation. I got to meet Gwen, and I asked her, I was like, are we going to, like, who are you going to send up there? You know? And she's like, well, it's a private company, and like, there's not an abundance of astronauts. So she's like, we'll be sending SpaceX, you know, employees. I was like, sick. Like,
get me on the list.
Yeah, for sure. She said their first successful Starship landing, they're going to do a test run. The first time they get a landing one, they said the next one will have people on it. So like, I was like, it's wild, dude. But I don't work there. I could have.
What happened? So what happened?
My wife didn't want to move to LA. And so we had a deal. Because I talked to one of my manager friends there, and I was like, dude, what do I do? Like, I kind of want to tell her to f off and like, you know, like, this is like, dude, the signing bonus was like 150 racks. I was like, this is life changing for us, right? Yeah. Like, and he told me, that's a good story too, man. Andy's cool. It kind of plays into like who I am as a person and a personality, you know, like I just meet these people, you know? But I asked Andy, he was like a mentor to me at SpaceX. And I was like, hey, what do I do, man? Like, he's like, he said, dude, you're super smart. Like, he's like, you're personable. And like, he's like, you have nothing but good reviews here. He's like, you can get a job anywhere. He's like, do you want to do it now or later? He's like, you might not have another shot, like keeping your family, you know? He's like, he was a SEAL for 22 years before he was, and he's like, I've moved my family so many times. And he's like, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. He's like, my wife doesn't want me here. He's like, this is like it. He's like, he's like, I advise you to just like take one for the team and like, you know, you can pursue your dream later. And I was like, all right. So me and my wife had a deal. I would do one interview because engineering interviews are hard. They're like multi rounds and like they're test like, you know, it's like, it's crazy. I don't want to do the process. Plus I have to tell them I'm a felon every time. Like I have that. I'm like,
You have multiple hurdles.
dude, I'm at the top. Why I can't go higher than SpaceX? Why would I go anywhere else, right? Like, so the deal was I would do one interview. I was like, I'll do one Washington interview. I'll apply to a bunch of places. I'll do one interview. If they don't beat SpaceX's offer, I didn't think they were going to, right? I was like, if they beat SpaceX's offer, I'll stay. Sure as shit, I get offered this like aviation like laser job, right? And they're like, how much is SpaceX paying you? I said 85, blah blah blah. And they're like, they gave me 95, and I was like, dude, like, so I was like, okay, I have to. Plus, with our tax structure in Washington compared to California, we actually would have been taking like a net $40,000 a year loss to go to California. Mm-hmm. We owned a house, we would have been renting. It made sense financially. I was like, that sucks, but I was like, Andy said I can come back whenever. I already checked with my manager. He's like, yeah, dude, we got a job for you, you know? So I took the job. That job ended up being like a front for some like Russian shit. This was right when Ukraine happened. So they fly me to Italy to do training. And I'm like, cool, I'm going to do helicopter training with lasers in Italy, dude. This is going to be tight. They did have lasers and helicopters in Italy. The reason they sent me there was not because that's where they work on the lasers, like they told me. It's because their entire 150 person organization, 140 of them were Russian engineers and they couldn't leave the country. So they had everybody else in the company quit except for one engineer in Italy. So they had to send me over there for training because all the other ones couldn't get out of Russia. So I'm a felon. I'm very familiar with things that are going on. I'm like, bro, I worked at ITAR companies. Like, I know what ITAR is, like international trade agreement regulations for like SpaceX and shit. I was like, I don't want a foreign government on my resume, bro. I was like, I already am a felon. Like, I don't want Russia on top of my 8 felonies. I was like, I quit, dude. Like, right. So I come back from Italy, I quit, and I'm like, okay, I'm going back to SpaceX. I call SpaceX. They don't got a spot for me in LA anymore. I was like, cool. What about Raymond in Washington? He's like, I put in a bunch of recommendations. I spent 5 months interviewing on 4 different teams at Raymond, right? And I told my wife, I was like, I'm not going to work because I need to prep for these. Like, I can't, it's not a joke. Like, I need to like prepare. So I had to go through 3 rounds of interviews, and then a 4th round is a presentation. It's 6 hours. So you present on your most technical project, and then you get grilled by everyone there. And then you do 30-minute like interviews with each person that was on the panel, and they can ask you engineering questions. So you need to prepare, right? Spent 5 months. SpaceX, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Virgin Galactic goes bankrupt. They all go on layoffs. There's an abundance of engineers. I don't get a job. So now I ended up taking the first job I could get, which was a civil engineering job at WashDOT, which, you know, Department of Transportation. I'm not even a civil engineer, but they were like, your resume is sick, you know? So I do that, hate it. I get a job doing what I was doing at SpaceX, which is automation and controls at a local firm. That's what I do now. And I love it. Like it's literally what I want to do. It's not on rockets. It's on, you know, wastewater treatment plants and stuff like that, or production plants. Same work though. So I don't know, that's probably cuttable from the podcast, but that's what I do now, which, you know, that's okay. And I like, the reason I bring it up is because, it's like part of my story, but in engineering, like everyone's like, oh, I played with Legos. That's how I know I'd be an engineer. Yeah. Looking back, I'm like, I was really smart, dude. Like some of that shit was like, I mean, I was a drug addict, but like some of the like figuring out the phone scam and stuff like that, it does take a level of intelligence to like figure the complexities of that out. And like, also like, I remember when I was stealing stuff with my brother, like when we were in junior high, I figured out that like if you take a coat hanger and you like make it in this L shape and you flatten the end, you could pop lockers with locks on them at the school. And so we'd steal all the away teams' stuff like at basketball games. And like it's like I wasn't playing with Legos, but I was like definitely picking locks and shit. Like I mean the mechanical aspect should have been there, you know.
There's a lot of wasted talent in prison. That's
so
for sure.
Much, dude. And I know. I mean, I only got my bachelor's, man, but I got through the scholarships and stuff. I know a lot of people. I thought I was unique for many years, like in college. Like I'd never known anyone from the life that like went to school until like I went to UW on that scholarship, and I met more people. And there's a significant amount of people that get out and like get masters and PhDs and stuff like that. And like it's really cool. Like I don't know. Like I did a lot of work like trying to push like education in the prison system in the U.S. and like I really feel. Like if you look at the numbers, recidivism is greatly reduced by it. And like, I mean, The shit you were
options.
doing, dude, we're smart people. Like, we're super smart people. Like, I don't know. For me, anyway, my world was so small, I didn't see where I could apply that. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 It's and this is actually perfect. Your case is idyllic for this. Is that I always see these guys that like they end up just like, wow, you're super smart. Well, you ended up you were just a drug dealer, but when this kid was raised, his mom's a prostitute, his dad's in and out of prison. Only people he knows that have any money are drug dealers. Like, he has no, you know what I'm saying? He has
when you're looking at your options and you have no options, and it's like, okay, I could go work at McDonald's, or I could go pull $1,500 a week as a runner for this guy.
Right.
What are you gonna do? I pay my mom's bills this way,
Right. And that's it. That's the only options. Like, they don't know anybody else, and they don't know what avenue there is to do anything else. And even if they can think, oh, well, everybody says I should do this and this and this, they don't know anybody that's doing any of those things. They don't know anybody that's successful at those things. So they become foreign. That's some guy saying, yeah, you should go to college and then you could go get a job doing making a lot of money. Doing what? Oh, I don't know. There's jobs out there. He doesn't know because he's a crackhead. You know what I'm saying?
That is my pitch to my guys. Most of us, I'm like, bro, you are a scholarship golden ticket. I made enough money from scholarships. I bought a house. Like, I was pulling $160,000 a year on scholarships. I was like, if you take that hustler mentality, I was like, I wrote a 4-page essay that paid me $40,000. It took me 3 months to write it with the drafts and stuff. That's good money, dude. I was like, I literally got paid to go to school because of my past. I was like, you can still profit off of it. Like,
yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Exactly.
I'm making crime pay.
Yes.
So,
there's smarter ways to do what we were doing.
Yeah.
The hustle don't stop. It just, you don't get arrested for it.
Right.
The right way.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, if you like the video, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this. Please leave a comment and share the video. It'd be great if this really got some views, because it definitely deserves it. Also, please check in the description box where we leave all of Ray's social media links so that you can get in contact with him. Also, please consider joining our Patreon. It's $10 a month. We put Patreon exclusive content. If you're upset because we had to censor words during this, we're going to put the unedited version on Patreon. $10 a month helps us make the videos. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. See ya.